We're not sure that doctors of any sort
Hello, how are you?
But I wasn't sure if there's even better.
We've got about another minute before we're going to start the meeting. Before we do that, if I could have everybody's attention, please. We had a loss in our community yesterday. Fire Police Captain George Steve Axner passed away yesterday. Member of the Tabernacle Fire Company. And I think it's appropriate to, before we get started, to ask for a moment of silence and thoughts for, with Steve's family. Thank you. Well, Sean, are we ready to go? This time I'd like to call the meeting of the Tabernacle Township Committee to order. Please join me in saluting the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is called pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of September 25th, 2017 was included in the municipal notices and essential records, Burlington County Times, and Courier Post, posted on the bulletin board in Town Hall, and has remained continuously posted as required notices under the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. We have roll call. Mr. Barton.
Present.
Ms. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Francis. Mr. Yates.
Here.
Mayor Lee.
Here. At this time, we're going to open up the meeting for public comment on agenda items only. You will note on our agenda this evening we have 3 public hearings on Resolution 2017-7, 8, and 9. There will be 3 separate public hearings for these. So at this time, we are taking comments from the public on agenda items only, but please keep in mind we are having public comments on these 3 items during the meeting as normal as normal public comments. At this time, welcome to the meeting to members of the public. Stuart.
Thank you. Good evening, committee members. Stuart Brooks, Green Meadow Road. Regarding item 6, bond for road improvement. I'd like to know what roads are being bonded for. 9/11 meeting, there was discussion about Powell Place, being the only township road that would be bonded for the exception of Duran, which is going to be the subject of application to the state. But earlier in the year, in May, there were 6 or 7 other roads that were mentioned. Had clarifications whether they're in or out. I'd also like to know what specifically fire equipment, excuse me, is being bonded for. Regarding the DOT grants for Carranza, I'd like to know which grant or grants you're considering. The DOT offers 2. There's the annual municipal aid grant, which is typically applied for, but there's also an infrastructure grant, and it seems like Carranza checks a lot of the boxes for eligibility for that. It's for a condition that connects with a node or a safe facility, or also multi-jurisdictional. And an infrastructure grant can be made any time of the year. It's not limited by schedule. Secondly, you want that answer, please?
Yep.
Regarding the public safety director comments that were made at the meeting September 11th.
Please be specific about which agenda item you're bringing up at this time.
Yes, this is it's ordinance 2017-9.
We're taking public comments at that time.
I realize that, but this
Okay.
is also the section that's available for public comment on any item. It's on the agenda, public comment.
I understand that, but there is a public hearing on that.
Thank
So
you.
You'll have ample opportunity to be able to talk about that. You have 3 minutes. I can give you your answers to your first questions if you'd like.
If I can use the leftover time to discuss
How we follow
comments.
that. You have a minute and 12 seconds.
Okay. I was surprised to hear that 3/4 of the TRS's trips are to outside of Tabernacle. It strikes me that we are not talking about I'm not sure if the term is right, but a local homegrown organization. Sure they're local, sure they're homegrown, but it's clear they're much larger in their scope of operations than a local homegrown, or that concept that I'm trying to express. Their scope is broad, that's the point. And responding to your comments, Ms. Brown, you find great comfort in knowing that they're your people, your township people, because they have a greater commitment. My question is this: if 3/4 of their calls are out of the township, it would seem likely that in those other townships, they are providing a good portion, if not the majority portion of service. I'd like to know what those numbers are. But if that's the case, and it certainly seems like it would be, then why is it that the people in those townships, say Southampton, other neighboring towns, don't get the same benefit that you feel is so important? If the TRS is providing service to them in their town, they are in effect being served by people who are not in their town. So if it's so important for Tabernacle to have service by its own, why is it not important for any other township to have service by its own?
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. I will point out that the ordinance you're speaking of, there's a public hearing for that on the 23rd, and that will be introduced. Typically, we do the public hearing on the 23rd. But I will take your questions and actually ask Mr. Kramer to clarify those answers since he has those specific answers to your questions.
Thank you.
Now, please replace all the other that we talked about. SCBA, breathing apparatus and spare bottles is what the fire equipment is.
Can you speak up? It was hard to hear you back here.
How many SCBA units are we talking?
Probably in the neighborhood of 16 right now, based on the figures we had for the on-state contract.
Anything else?
And the DOT grants?
The DOT grant always,
Right now, we're just applying for the municipal aid grant for Craig's.
Is there any reason why infrastructure grants?
Let's be clear that you've had a public comment you had 3 minutes. If you didn't get clarification, this isn't very important. Do we have an understanding of what his question is? In
The
terms
question was
of
which grant we were applying for, and it was a municipal aid grant that we're applying for
for
Cranes.
Crayons Road.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments from the public at this time on agenda items? Mrs. Brooks?
Good evening, Fran Brooks, Morse Meadow Road. Today there was an article published in the Burlington County Times and regarding the ordinance. And I think it's relevant to the later discussion. I don't know that I'm going to bother to comment on at the hearing, but there are a couple of things that stand out about this article. First of all, the author of the reporter on this says the rescue squad took in $200,000 in revenue last year. We don't have 2016's financial report, so I don't know where, there's no references. We don't know where this number comes from. I don't know whether it came from the committee or it came from Chief Jackson. They're being fed truthful information or fake news. There's no way of knowing, but they seem to have information, the BCT seems to have information that you don't seem to have, because you were asking questions at the 9/11 meeting about how much money we're talking to, you were asking questions to Chief Jackson about how much money we're talking about. It seems to me that you should have this information by now.
I'm not going to interrupt you, but what...
You don't have to respond to any of this. This is related to
this is on, just to be clear, and I want to make this very clear, there are 3 public hearings tonight. We will take comments on the 3 items during the public hearing. If you have a specific agenda item, I'd like you to tell me what agenda item you're referring to and then make your comment.
Okay, these are comments related to the ordinance that you're considering, 2017-9. Mr. Kramer is quoted in here as saying that he's really not sure that it's possible to earmark the money. Now, Mr. Kramer has been sitting at this table for months, for eons. Now, if he had this thought, why wasn't it ever brought up at a public meeting? Why is it suddenly it appears in the newspaper? It really does seem like a sandbag to this committee, but it seems like a sandbag. But surely this point could have been raised at the numerous meetings that you folks had about this position, that 2017-9. The other thing that's brought up is that there's no difference between, Chief Jackson says that he can't plan properly if he's not controlling the money. But the squad plan shouldn't be any different than the Public Works plan, like the Public Works road plan. So that is at least a 13-year plan. So I would think, based on the operations that he's been involved with, that he has led for multiple years, that he should know what that is. The other point I'd like to make is, he claims that he's going to close down if your plan goes into effect. Now, that's a Chicken Little statement. And it's also a statement made, it's almost like a dog whistle to all the uninformed residents of this town that, oh my God, we're not going to have ambulance service, which is just patently false, especially if we have mutual aid and other towns are able to serve us. And he does himself, I think the TRS does itself a disservice when it makes those kinds of statements, because what it looks like really is that he's not willing to, they're not willing, the squad is not willing to come to the table and have an honest discussion about about the squad still being representing emergency services. So this kind of garbage really shouldn't be put into the press, but it's put into the press for a particular reason, because he wants the residents to think that they're going to be without ambulance service. And it's just really an underhanded way of operating. And the other thing that I'd like to say about this is that he didn't know about this, your plan, whatever the plan is, but he didn't know about it. But that's simply not true. That 9/11 meeting shows that he had to know about it, because he had a meeting with the squad. You specifically said, both Mrs. Brown and you, Mayor, that the meeting occurred the Thursday before the 9/11 Township meeting. And he was there. He was also at the 9/11 meeting, and if he didn't know what the plan was, he could have specifically asked what the plan was. Thank you very much.
Any other comments to the public this time on agenda items? George?
George Jackson, Chief Tabernacle Rescue Squad. First thing I'd like to clarify, we do not run 75% of our
George,
calls.
I'm going to ask you again, I'm going to make this really clear. We can either do two things. We can either not have any public comment on agenda items only in regards to these three ordinances, since we're going to have public comment, or we'll come up and say when you're ready to talk what your ordinances are talking about.
Well, there was a statement made that's not true. I wanted to correct.
Okay. Which agenda item are you up here to talk about?
2017-9.
Thank you. Go ahead.
There was a statement made that we run 75% of our calls out of town. That's actually the complete opposite. We gave the report, we gave our first quarter report, we've handed in our second quarter report. I believe it's like a 75-25 split, not the other way around. So that statement's completely wrong. My other question is to the committee is, do you plan on going forward with 2017-9 since you don't have a full committee? Because we've postponed things before for a whole committee and we don't have a whole committee. That's
Thank you
all
for your
I'm saying.
comments.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public at this time? Kathy?
Kathy Berger, 18 Woodside Drive. I would just like to know what the committee's real plan is on ordinance 2017-9. So prior to holding the public hearing, I'd like to hear what the plan is moving forward with emergency services, so that all of us can ask the proper questions, knowing what the plan is. Because by the ordinance, not really sure. And part of the discussion is September 11th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public at this time? Mr. Jones?
Jim Jones, 16 Wilmington Way, Tabernacle. 27-9.
Thanks. I've been trying to get that for 10
Every
minutes.
once in a while I hear backwards.
You are the first one. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It's really easy.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, you did.
No, I can't.
I don't know that I've ever seen what I consider to be somewhat of a power grab and money grab since I've been living in this town since 1970. I mean, I go back to the game of nowhere in the bill or the ordinance does it identify exactly what the billing receipts are going to be used for. Let's say just SWAT doesn't specifically deny fire company or CERT. So I'm curious a little bit about that. In my opinion, you're going to be taking control of a large diamond squad because it's going to have a public safety director that can hire officers that have been elected over there for rules or discipline issues that don't exist right now. The rules for how the public safety director is going to handle this stuff, what he's going to like, he or she's not going to like, it's not spelled out. And it bothers me that the public safety director can fire the chief of the fire company, the squad, the 3 people that are actually appointed to CERT if this thing goes through. Squad's a polished diamond, recognized statewide. Fire company may be an unpolished diamond because I don't exactly know what they do or how they work, but I think they have the potential to be a polished diamond. CERT is a standard in the state. Everybody wants to be like High-Owens Regional CERT. Kind of a little bit worried about how the township's going to, through the PSD, is going to take control of this stuff. You talk about requiring, or maybe requiring, medical certification to serve. I don't understand how you're going to do that because for DOT and CDLs, there are specific medical examiners and specific things they look for, which means you're going to have to spell out in great detail what will qualify or not qualify somebody. For the FAA, there are flight examiners, and only that flight examiner can sign off on my medical. And I have to pay for it. So who's going to pay for the medical certs? And who are you going to get to do it? Probably not your personal care physician because he's just not going to care enough to delve into what he needs to do. And you're going to have to tell him, or you're going to have specific doctors.
It's the same with CDL. You have to have it. With the new regulations, you have to have a specific doctor that counts the CDL certification.
Exactly. And so I see problems with that kind of a thing. Background checks I don't have a problem with. Anybody that's going in houses or those kind of things, yeah, you ought to know that it's not Jack the Ripper or Five Finger Frank. A question about federal regulations. Is that going to say that, hey, the EMTs need to be nationally registered? that's a little bit different than what we work with right now. Right now, it's state regs. I don't know if that figures into it or not, but if there's national registration required, it's going to be a nightmare. Because National Registry has you tested on things that you can't use in the state, like 3 minutes early. I hope I'm wrong, and I told you this downstairs, that in 2 years I could come back here and say I was wrong. And I'll keep track of it. I'm afraid that I won't be able to say that, but I hope I can. We spoke before, however, we have to work together in this town. It's a small town. So many good people for the last 15, 20 years. We've got to be able to get along and make this thing work, but I'm just not convinced that it's going to.
Thanks, Mr. Jones. Actually, Kathy Berger was the first. She was specific about the ordinance. Any comments from the public this time?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Yeah, sure do.
All right.
Tell us who you are and what you want.
I'm speaking from my way. Let's get something. My wife said,
Can you state your name? Can you state your name, please?
Mike Callahan,
And you're talking about,
27
thanks.
I knew most of you when you were little. And the idea is that we're creating another tax, meaning paying a township employee. And my wife said, we're not big enough for that. I know what the salary is, but it's a raise in our taxes no matter what. So this position can be done by, where is it, him, all right? We don't need this. And to raise our taxes is something else, all right? It adds to our tax bill. Thank you.
Any comments? Any comments this time? Seeing no one close the public? Need a motion to approve the bills, please. Mrs. Brown, thank you. Mary Gates. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes. First item on the agenda is 2017-7, the public hearing, the ordinance of the Township of Tabernacle, amending Chapter 8 flood damage prevention hazard areas of the revised Township Code of Ordinances. Need a motion, please? Thank you, Mr. Brown. Need a second? Thank you, Mr. Yates.
Mr. Martin.
Sorry, Mr. Martin. Doug, can you, before we get into the public hearing, can you outline what we're doing here?
Okay. The Department of Homeland Security's Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, has reevaluated all the flood maps and updated them, at least statewide. I don't know, I believe this is nationwide. I don't know that for sure. I just know in Burlington County they've updated them. And what has happened is by using GIS maps, they've been able to establish elevations where before, when they did a floodplain, they would draw so many centimeters away from the stream in a straight line or a contoured line. And that was it. And what this new map has allowed them to do is to take in the differences in elevation and actually show where the floodwaters would most likely go. So we have some areas that were straight line and it was only a few 100-foot wide or 100-foot wide. Now we have areas where that may have been reduced to 30 or 40 foot where the banks are higher and where it's lower and where the retention pond areas run into it. They allow for that and include the retention pond areas in that. So it's really a federally mandated update in our regulations to match what the updated rate is.
Any questions or comments on the committee?
Yeah, is this something, I mean, I understand it's federal mandate, is this something that would still have to be approved by the Finance Commission?
I'm not sure of that.
It's a question we can ask
Anybody else
tomorrow.
got it?
The reason why I'm asking is we're gonna,
It'll be referred.
everything is governed by the Finance, so.
Well, everything's covered by the Pond. The Pond certainly,
For land use.
yeah,
For land use ordinance.
yeah. They'll be approving this also.
Okay.
will be referred for their certification, same way we do any other land use ordinance. The practical effect is it allows people to complete and comply with those regulations so that they'll be able to collect should they have a flood claim under the federal insurance program. And this helps them make sure, the township plays a part in making sure that those properties are in compliance, and thereby people would, have valid flood insurance. And so if the township, if Pinelands has something to say, then they'll have something to say. Be referred for their certification.
8-3-2 of this ordinance references the flood maps for Burlington County. It says all jurisdictions are with.
Yes, they're on the county website.
Okay.
So you can go down and scroll through and narrow down to your particular neighborhood and see what the change is.
Any other comments from the committee? At this point, we'll open the public hearing for ordinance 2017-7. Mrs. Brooks?
Thank you. Fran Brooks, Morrisville Road. Did Colonel Lowe comment about this ordinance and its impact on this community? That's one question. Was there a comparison between this ordinance and the previous iteration? Did you receive anything like that? Or either orally or in writing? I know I heard Mr. Kramer's discussion, but there are a couple of things. I'm wondering, did all of you read this ordinance? You looked through it, okay. I just want to point out a couple of things. One, at the last meeting, Colonel Lowe rightfully was talking about having a discussion on hurricanes. So this flood hazard ordinance is really important because a lot of area in this town is underwater, basically. No pun intended, but it's a wetlands. And so this is a very serious proposal. And there was really no discussion, even before you introduced this ordinance, about its import. And especially in light of what's going on now, whether you believe in global warming or not, you can see clearly the effects of hurricanes on the effect hurricanes could have on us. So it's really a very important ordinance. And one of the things that pops out at me is that in that section that you actually just referenced, Mr. Borton, Section A refers to a report that's dated December 21st, 2017. Now, I know that that's probably a typo I would like to think that it's a typo on FEMA's part. But somebody reading this ordinance before you ever went to second reading should have picked up that date and had it corrected so it wasn't reprinted with the incorrect date. Because it's dated, this report is dated December 21st, 2017. We haven't even gotten to December. So that's one thing. The other thing is that this new rate structure really has a huge import for our residents who have to get mortgages. And they don't know what the impact is. And that's why Colonel Lowe's role in this is really important, and your role is really important in educating people about the significance of this ordinance. And frankly, I observed the process that the committee used to send this ordinance to second reading. And I said to myself, this ordinance is no different than you approving a parade permit or a raffle permit when this ordinance really has major significance for residents in this township. But you're treating it so matter-of-factly, and it should not be treated that way. And there are many, many people who are going to be subject to these FEMA maps who really need to understand. And just because they don't come to a meeting, which they should, but just because they don't come doesn't mean they shouldn't be educated about this. And you shouldn't be so perfunctorily adopting this ordinance. And it would be nice to get that date corrected, and to make sure the maps are in the office, because when I asked 2 weeks ago when this was published, I asked Ms. Barber if the maps were available, and they weren't. I had to call her today. She gave me some information about the maps. But if the maps are supposed to be in the office, they should be in the office so people can review them. Thank you very much.
You say,
The maps are right here if anyone wants to see them.
thank you. Everybody hear that in the audience?
Sean, could we open them and see what the date is? At December the 16th on those maps? Doug, could you take a look at those maps and have Jay Leslie look at them and tell us what the date is on them, Dave?
That's the date they're requiring us to get it adopted. That's the date they're requiring us to get this adopted.
With a report that is going to be, that was published in December 2017? Come on.
It's the feds.
It doesn't matter who it is, it should be corrected. At
Excuse
any
me.
level, it should be
I
corrected.
can't hear if you're talking.
I know, sorry. I'm just having a conversation.
Doug, did you have any conversations with Colonel Lowe about this ordinance?
The Colonel and Mr. Boyd and I went to the flood conference at the county office this week.
14th, I believe.
14th. And this was reviewed. And we are headwater in 2 different directions. We don't have anybody else's water coming to us. We're not downstream of anybody else. So we have we had one house before that was in the flood. Tom, do you remember? And the new map, we're not sure whether we have any more at this point in time. We have some more yard space. What I've reviewed of it, and we've had a fair amount of lowland in the southern portion of the county that is susceptible. We have a fair amount of low ground in this township, but it's not that susceptible because it's headwater to stream flow inflow that's going to flood other than what we get in our own rainfall. It's not to say that people's cellars don't get flooded in a hard rain and water runs in the but we don't have the overall danger that, say, Riverside does, or any of the river towns, where they're getting not only their water, but they're getting everybody else's upstream. And I'm not sure we can make a lot of adjustments to this from what they present to us without violating what they want to be passed by all of them. And we have to so the residents who are in the floodplain can qualify for federal insurance. If we don't have it, if we've not passed it or we've not updated it, and then that federal insurance is held back because we are not in compliance. So outside of that, I see Mr. Brooks has got his next question, so I'll stop after that.
In the spirit of full disclosure, my house is actually downstream on the West Branch of the water. My house actually is in Tabernacle Township, obviously, but the.
That used to be in Washington County.
Well,
We can't hear you back here, guys.
maybe you still think of the Washington Township. In any event, my house is actually in the floodplain of the West Branch of the Wading River. So all the water that comes from the Woodland Township and Washington, goes through Washington Township, actually comes into my backyard. So we're not.
Stand corrected, I apologize.
Not every, I wanted to be, spirit of full disclosure, very clear. Comments from the public on this ordinance, Mr. Yajima?
Stuart Brooks, Moore's Meadow Road. I want to thank Doug for his explanation of how the maps were made. I know from my discussions, DEP used to be in their that's flood control section, that the previous edition of the flood control map is pretty loose, especially in less populated areas. And I would like to check out the maps, the new version, especially if it's supposed to be more accurate, to see if in fact that's, if there's been any change.
They're side by side on the county website. You can see the 2010 versus the new. Side by side maps.
Okay. Well, I'll look for it. But this gets to 2 points. One is, how would we make an adjustment if an adjustment was required? I know it was real difficult last time with the last iteration, and I would imagine that the same is true now. But the other point is, do we have the current maps in the township? And when did we get them? And are you simply saying that the better tool to use is the county website because you've got A and B?
The better tool to use is county web. They provided that so it can be a better tool than looking at two physical maps and trying to put it back and forth. Literally, they're side by side. You can drill down to your particular house and see what it was in 2010, what it was in 2016.
That's great. And well, I guess that would bring me back to the comment that Fran was made, is that this would have been good stuff to have at first reading, not so much second.
Didn't have all this information at first reading.
We can't hear you, honestly.
I guess they didn't have the information at first reading.
We got it on the 14th. That's when the county explained what they had provided. It may have been up before that. I hadn't run across it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the public at this time? Mr. Jones?
Jim Jones, 16 Wilmington Way. I know I'm not in the floodplain because I looked. But I would request that the township committee or maybe Doug advise those people who now may have a changed status by mail or something that, hey, you better be taking a look at your flood insurance. You may want it, and they may not even realize that they can get it. So I would ask that because I hate to have somebody get wiped out.
That's a good idea.
And find out later that they could solve it.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Is there anything to prevent us from doing that?
It'll take a little time, didn't it?
Any other comments from the public at this time? See none, we'll close the public hearing. Any other further comments from the committee? We are, Doug, myself, and Guzzi will be meeting at the Highlands Commission tomorrow to talk about other issues, and we can certainly discuss this ordinance at that time. We'll put that on the agenda tomorrow. Dan? Yep. The reason we can't. We have a first and second roll call.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lake?
Yes. Resolution 2017-8, public hearing for the bond ordinance. Township of Tabernacle, County of Burlington, State of New Jersey, amount of $355,000 for public works trucks. Need a motion and a second, please. Second. Thank you, Mrs. Brown and Mr. Yates. Doug?
These are the trucks we talked about at the last meeting, one conventional dump truck and one forklift truck. We will have at the, if this is approved, after the 20-day estoppel period, we will then have go into contract with Hunter International under the NJPA cooperative purchasing agreement to purchase both trucks. And that will be on your next agenda for the October. To
give the public a little bit of background on this, Doug had asked us, when, Ken, May? Maybe? For a relatively large bond ordinance that included public works trucks as well as other items. And one of the things that we wanted to do was understand exactly what we were buying. And it happened right around budget time, so it had to be April, May. But in any event, we put together a subcommittee to look at public works. And this subcommittee put a report together that included myself, Kim, Doug, and another gentleman from the public. And what initially started out as just the purchase of some items, we made a decision as a committee and as a subcommittee to recommend to the full committee that we liquidate 6 trucks and purchase 2 more. And the idea was that we would take these assets, which at the time still need substantial work done to them, but it made sense for us to spend money on trucks that essentially would last us a little bit longer than 3 or 4 years, which is what the trucks that are sitting over in the yard now that are full of rust would maybe give us, if we're lucky. So we made a decision to liquidate 6 trucks and purchase 2 new trucks. This will not cut down, will not reduce the amount of services we provide. The other thing that we also looked at was the possibility of subcontracting certain areas in the township for plowing during the wintertime. And it's more of a pilot program to see whether or not it's feasible. Doug seems pretty comfortable with it. We've had some dialogue with Public Works. They seem comfortable with it, but what it does is it gives local vendors an opportunity to be able to bid on areas here in town. One of the things we specifically indicated during the Public Works report was that we wanted to ensure that the bids would come from local contractors that were local, that were here, that were in Tabernacle, or perhaps Chemung or Southampton. But we weren't going to look for, we're not going to look for landscapers from Cherry Hill or Marlton to come in and do our work, which Public Works has done an excellent job with. So it gave us an opportunity to be able to provide an opportunity for local vendors here in Tabernacle to be able to bid on roads. So this is actually accomplishing a lot of things. This is something that I'm in support of. We have opened this up to the public, so at that time, we'll do that at this time. For the, you can say that.
The RFP for the snow plowing is on our website, and we have had some contractors.
There's also copies of this report available if anyone would like one. I have my personal copy, but we have some downstairs probably as well. And it clearly outlines all the equipment we have here, but what it also shows is the type, some of the equipment we have is just awful. And I think we would be throwing good money on top of bad if we were to try to fix these trucks. So it made sense to sell several of them through the gov deals, but then also buy 2 new ones that would essentially be a lot safer for the guys who are going out at night. So at this point, we'll open up this resolution, this ordinance to the public. Colonel Lowe's got his hand up.
This was public comment on this.
It is.
And you are. No, 24 acres drive Tabernacle. I have no problems with anything you just said. I have no problem with the ordinance. I have a question. Over the last couple of months, I've noticed, now wait for it, I've noticed that the collection of trash is deteriorating. And the amount of trash that remains on the ground is increasing. And so I'm questioning about who polices that. So my question really is, you're going to take something that's not broken, the plowing of the streets of Tabernacle, that is done by an outstanding manner and better than any of the townships around us, and you're going to subcontract it out. I don't have a problem with that. Who's going to police it? We know who we can hold. We know who we can hold accountable when Public Works screws up. Who's going to hold it accountable when it's a subcontractor? And look at what's happening in trash. And is it going to be any better? Thank you very much.
We talked about that. And that was we had a lot of really good dialogue about that. And I was one that wanted to subcontract out a particular area that you would be able to monitor, that would be easy for Doug to be able to pay attention to. We're going to try it for a year. If it doesn't work for a year, we'll go back.
Well, you're into a contract, and sorry, you're going to be into a contract, so it'll be a year.
Yeah.
And I hope it meets your expectations. But I know what we could do when Public Works doesn't do it right. We slap upside the head and send them back out and do it again. We're not going to be able to do that with a vendor.
The thing that really concerned us was the amount of hours that the guys at Public Works are spending out on the road. That was one thing that really struck us. The second thing was the condition of the equipment that they have. As I said, it's something we're going to try for a year. And we essentially, I wouldn't have done it without Doug's endorsement.
Fine.
If Doug wasn't comfortable with it, we wouldn't be doing it.
Ask and answer.
We wouldn't be having the conversation if he wasn't comfortable. Any other comments this time?
Thank you, Stuart Brooks, North Meadow Road. With the addition of the 2 trucks and the liquidation of the 6, what's the size of the fleet that remains?
Now,
6, I think. Does that sound right? Is it more than that?
with the 2 coming in, we will have 5 trucks in salt. We will have 6 large trucks that can plow, although one's limited in what section it goes in because it's an 18-foot long body truck, and it doesn't do well with cul-de-sacs. And we have 3 small trucks that can plow.
So that's,
Are mostly used for parking lots and our dirt roads. And we have a grader that we put a plow on.
So that's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
6.
The salt trucks are being counted twice.
Yeah, don't count twice, they're same truck.
I don't have those with me. Never.
6, 10.
Sir, would you like a copy of the report?
Sure.
Sean's got it, or I don't know if Sean has it, but I've got mine.
we have it.
I can bring it more.
No, let's see, we have
Would
it.
your wife talk to you?
We have it.
We have it.
In addition to the trucks and their other equipment, need more? No. Okay. Very good.
Any other comments from the public? Mr. Brooks, you raise your hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still not clear. I know we have the report, we've all read, we both read it. But are we talking about 15, that your entire fleet of trucks being 15 trucks? After you sell off the 6?
We reduced the number by 4.
Okay, so what's the total number of trucks that you're gonna have after you get your 2 new ones and you liquidate
I
this?
gave you the number of trucks that, I gave Stuart the number of trucks that
I
are
couldn't
capable
hear.
of plowing and salting. And when I say they can salt, all my salt trucks can plow, 1 unit. Not all my plow trucks can salt. So, 2 different operations. Done one after the other, sometimes, again, at the end, most likely. But, so what we will have is, when we're all said and done, we'll have 3 small trucks. We'll have a medium truck. And we'll have 3 large trucks, 4 large trucks.
When do you think you're gonna have to go out for another bond for trucks, given you know your equipment? When is it likely that we're gonna be facing another $400,000 bond?
So pleased to sit. How are you? Doing good. Good. How's the kids?
I'm not asking for a particular project, I'm just asking generally, is this gonna?
Well, generally, I prefer to replace 1 truck a year and space them in between equipment as we go, so we spend a dollar amount somewhere under $200,000. Sometimes only $50,000, depending on what size truck, but I'd rather space that out 1 at a time. So,
So why aren't we doing that here?
because we're behind on what we have. We didn't purchase for a number of years. We pushed the condition of the trucks. Probably 2 or 3 years. We should have started doing this about 3 years ago. But funds were needed elsewhere for a number of different reasons.
When did you purchase the tire terminal? Was that 15?
When we looked at the condition, we actually went out physically looked at everything. And we had an estimate of the cost of repairs for the trucks. The trucks that we're recommending to liquidate are the ones that had the highest amounts. And we're talking big bucks. And if I were to put it out on if we put it out on GovDeals, we wouldn't get what we put into it. So fiscally, it's crazy to put that money into it and hope you get 2-3 years.
Is that on an annual basis or for the 3 years?
For the 3 years. Well, for the hopefully 3 years. Because you're dealing with salt trucks that are prone to corrosion. They're older trucks, so you just don't know. And we couldn't justify spending, I mean, one of them was what, $18,000 for repair? $18,000, and what if it got us a year? And it became not only the ability of the truck to perform, but the ability to not have someone get hurt on it. So that's why we made the recommendations that we did.
And that was 18,000 that maybe would get us here if nothing
Right.
else went wrong.
A year, if nothing else. It was just what they could see. So you were throwing good money after that.
Okay, what is the, I'm sorry,
We
go
had
ahead.
not had the ability in 2009 to buy construction on a regular basis based on DEP restrictions. And prior to that, we were allowed to hose them down and we were allowed to rinse them off, but we weren't allowed to wash them unless we went to the closest truck stop at the time, back then, was down Thoroughfare to run them through a wash that was large enough to do those trucks. So we had a little more corrosion on this particular set of trucks. We've made modifications in what we're looking at. Bodies, we're buying stainless steel bodies instead of mild steel bodies. We've incorporated a plastic fender over top of the rear wheels to keep the spray down when we're out there actually solving. So we're doing changes to make these trucks, the new trucks, last a little longer. But at the time, we bought what was available at the time. Stainless steel back in the early 2000s was astronomically more expensive than what it is today. That price has come down. Aluminum was higher than what the steel was at the time. We bought the industrial steel that was the heaviest we could put in at the time, and the floors have lasted very well in the trucks. It's the sidewalls that are falling off because you couldn't roll that up the sides.
Terry, what do you expect the bond rate? Do you have any sense for the bond rate? What this is actually going to cost us over, I don't have the bond, the ordinance in front of this. I don't even remember what the number of years. Is this 20, 40, 25 years? Is it 20, what is the, I know there's a
Useful
state.
life is
15.
I don't really have an idea now. They're saying that they are low, but it's going to be a variable rate, and right now it's just going to be temporary.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the public this time? Seeing no one close the public?
Mayor, I have a comment to make on this. In order to understand or to go out to bid and bring a third-party supplier in to do snow plowing, you need to know what your cost per mile is. And the goal here is we don't know. We know that this equipment is very expensive, and it's kind of been business as usual. And I don't think there's ever been an analysis of what it costs us per mile when you look at the trucks, the man hours, the equipment to plow snow. It's obvious that we've got a lot of equipment that only gets used just to plow snow. So if you factor in how much that equipment costs into the future, and hopefully this year what we'll do is we'll get an analysis of what it costs us per hour to plow snow. We'll take the value of those trucks, we'll prorate them out over a period of time, and then we'll see what the contractor performs on his mileage to plow snow. And that, to me, that's good government. It's not about the size of government, making government bigger, and it's not always about making it smaller, it's about making it efficient. And when you look at the number and the miles of roads that we have and the amount of equipment that we have sitting in this yard over here, that's basically dedicated to plow snow. Some of the trucks are multi-purpose, they do get used for other things, but for the most part, we've got a big investment to just plow snow. So hopefully, after this winter, if we have a contract, we can compare and make a determination in the future. Do we continue to contract more routes out? or do we continue to invest in more vehicles and do it ourselves?
Anything else to the committee? We have a first and second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Eaton?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is 2017-9, but we're going to move to knock out some of these other issues we have to do tonight. Resolutions. First one is introduction, first reading. The bond ordinance authorizing the completion of various capital improvements and the acquisition of various capital equipment in and for the Township of Tabernacle, County of Burlington, State of New Jersey, appropriating the sum of $1,030,000. There will be a public hearing on the 23rd of October regarding this bond ordinance. Need a first and a second, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Yates. Need a second, please. Public hearing will be 23rd of October, 7th.
Glad to see the airbags down there.
We have a second for this?
Mayor, I'm waiting for a second.
Wait for a second.
I can't second it. I can only.
I made all the motions all night.
I made a motion. I just need somebody to second it.
My predecessor told me that I wasn't allowed to make motions.
Make motions,
As,
or you can do whatever you want.
Well, you're not doing it. Apparently, you've already reached your quota. Mr. Barton, to make a second on this, we're going to move on.
I am not in favor of spending close to $1 million on a road improvement project without having a maintenance plan for the roads that we currently have. You know, there's things that we can do to our roads to maintain them and get more life out of them. And I'd like to see that plan of how we're going to maintain the roads we have and how we're going to repair them and what those roads are and how we can extend the life of those roads rather than just keep bonding and increasing the debt service on the residents of Tabernacle to pave additional roads.
I'm not sure I could have said that better. The public hearing is on the 23rd. We're not bonding any money tonight. This simply allows the people to have the discussion on the 23rd. You want to make a second and then we can have that discussion in October? Because I'm willing to do that. I think the message has been sent pretty clear to our administrator that what Mr. Martin's looking for. So I will make the second on this. Roll call.
Thank you. Mr. Barton?
No.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes. Resolution 2017-78 authorizing the issuance of sale up to $40,000 for special emergency notes of the Township of Tabernacle making certain covenants to maintain the exemption of the interest on said notes from federal income taxation, authorizing such further action and making such determinations as may be necessary or appropriate to effectuate the issuance and sale of the notes. Need a motion, please?
So moved.
I have a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Yates and Mr. Warren. Terry?
This $40,000 is part of the reval that was done in 2012. This is the last note that we're going to be issuing, and this will be paid off in 2018 budget.
Any questions or comments on the committee? Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes. Resolution 2017-79 approving the raffle application for Seneca Eagles Band Parent Association. Need a motion and a second, please. Thank you, Mr. Brown, second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes. Next is a pre-permit for the Pine Barrens and Doro Riders. dual sport. This says November 26, 2016, but I'm not sure that's accurate. The paperwork that I have is November 26, 2017.
Excuse me.
Need a motion and a second?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Barton, second. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Roll call.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes. Okay. That's where the fun starts. Resolution 2017-9, public hearing, second reading, ordinance of the Township of Tabernacle, County of Brunswick, State of New Jersey, designating and officially creating a Department of Public Safety in the position of Public Safety Director. Need a first and, or a motion and a second, please.
Make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Yates.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. I'm going to ask Pete to summarize what we're trying to accomplish with this ordinance. Kathy Parker specifically would ask what we're trying to do here. And I'm going to ask Pete to summarize that.
Well, I can tell you what the ordinance does. The ordinance is not very complicated. I think it speaks for itself. And what it does is it creates the position of a public safety department in the township, and then departments within that public safety department. And then at the head of that department, a paid position of public safety director would be responsible for the administrative functioning of the department and the coordination and the delivery of services. It doesn't necessarily change how you deliver those services, except for it does reference the billing that would result from a department. The public department would be the provider, and so the public department would be the biller, and it does indicate as such in the ordinance. It doesn't necessarily determine how those services will be provided. It could still be provided through a contract with volunteer service. It could be provided through a contract with a private entity, or any combination, anything in between. So I guess the principal modification that it makes is to the structure of the township and how it delivers the services by creating a public safety department where there's none that exists now, and you simply contract with private entities and your administrator oversees the administration. So it does formalize it and create a position in the township, a paid position, that would be responsible for that function.
Take any questions or comments on the committee at this point before we open up to public hearing? Or we can just jump in.
Love to make some comments.
Okay.
First of all, I think this should be held over to Mr. Franzen's here. There's been many ordinances that we've held because we haven't had full committee, and we've always felt that things that are important, we should have a full committee before we vote on it. With that being said, I just want to add a couple more comments. I know Mr. Brooks, I believe it was Mr. Brooks, commented that why shouldn't the other towns have the same level of homegrown volunteers answering their calls. I can't speak for other towns. I can speak what I would like to have in my own town. And our residents like the fact that there's people that they know and recognize as their fellow residents. Same with fire company. I'm sure they want the same. I want the people from my town that are my firefighters coming to my house as much as I want the people that are the rescue squad coming to my house. So if you want me to answer a question for another town, I can't do it. I know Mrs. Brooks asked, why didn't Chief Jackson know of the plan about the billing? Well, the meeting prior, the clarification for me was that the squad was going to continue to bill. When we got to the meeting on the 11th, it all of a sudden became the township. So it wasn't the same thing. There was two different information, so that's why he didn't know what the plan was. And then finally, this is supposed to keep the squad in place, but what I have a problem is I'm looking at a memorandum from our solicitor that comes at a request that I sit on the committee with everybody else, and nowhere do I remember having asked the solicitor to find out what other way we can provide services, contracting with other venues such as boards and everything else. I was quite appalled to see this report before I come to the meeting. You're talking about keeping your volunteers, but you got a report asking someone to come and replace them. That bothers me, because that wasn't what everyone's been saying, but yet you've already looked into getting rid of them. And then finally, TAA mans the refreshment stand, they collect the revenue. Are we gonna take that next to maintain the fields? I'm just really appalled at this whole ordinance. This is nothing new. Everybody up here already knows this. I've already expressed it to you. I think you're trying to take revenue that we told the organization to do yourself. 4 of us sitting, well, Mr. Franz is not here, but 4 of us said go ahead and do it. Now that you see that they're managing it well and providing services, I think it's great that they're hitting every single call. I believe last year they missed 1. That's a pretty good record. I'm sorry if other towns can't do it, and I'm glad we're there to help. But really, you're going to punish people for doing a good job. Mrs. Berger, who works in another municipality, sat and told you at the last meeting, don't mess with it. It's working well. Why do you want to mess with it? But yet, here we are sitting here talking about it tonight. Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Any interest in tabling this ordinance, fellas? Okay. Well,
So we can table a chicken ordinance because we didn't have a full committee, but we can't table an ordinance that deals with the public safety of the residents.
I do
That's
believe
just
that
my
Mr.
comments.
Franzen is on record stating how he feels about this ordinance.
Well, everyone knew how I felt. Should I have just not come tonight?
Mr. Franzen is in favor of a public safety director. He is not in favor of the bill.
Well, it's a parcel and package. It's all together. You didn't take it out last time. So when you pass it, it's all the same thing. There's nothing that removes
And if
it.
I do remember, you are in favor and were in favor of a public safety director.
I said I would agree to the public safety. I did not say I would ever agree to
You agreed
this part.
that you were in favor of a public safety director.
And at the meeting before that, Mr. Lee told me that he was not looking to take billing away from the squad. It's part of the record. Because I asked him to explain it to me because I was uncomfortable, and that's when we were supposed to sit down together to come up with better language. But yet the language stayed.
Well, somebody needs to tell me point blank, what exactly are we taking away from the squad? If the township takes over the building, if the township takes over the building, what is the squad losing?
Well, let me think about it.
Please tell me.
Oh, I'd be happy to tell you. So you want the volunteers of the rescue squad to go out and answer the calls. The committee's going to bill. That money's going to come back to the township, and then you're going to spread it across all the organizations. So you're funding all of your emergency services on the back of the volunteers of one organization. Yes, you are.
I do believe right now we collect money from the township, or from the residents of this township for fire. So why on earth couldn't all this money go into one line item?
Because they're billing for the services they get up in the middle of the night to provide. They get up in the middle of the night. And I have the same argument no matter what organization it was. They're giving their volunteer time, they're maintaining, they've taken us purchasing ambulance and everything. We used to fund all that. That used to be part of our budget. We used to bond for that.
Okay.
We don't do that anymore. The taxpayers are not paying for that.
And who do these ambulances belong to? Do they belong to Tabernacle Township, taxpayer Tabernacle Township, or do they belong to TRS?
Some of them do.
I'm asking the question.
Some of them do. There is an ambulance that still belongs to the township.
Okay, and right now I'm in full agreement. We have by far probably the best emergency rescue squad in the state. They do a fabulous job. But right now, everybody sitting here and everybody out there of the organization, we all agree. This is what we'd like you to do, they do it. 10, 15 years from now, when we're all not here and the leaders out there aren't here, and somebody may in the future go, it's our equipment. Bye-bye. Where does that leave the taxpayer Tabernacle?
Well,
that is my concern.
Okay, so you want to have a contract with them, build it into the contract that they have to leave you with if they ever decide to dissolve.
Well, at the present time, I have no clue what kind of revenue they bring in. We have asked, we don't receive it. We've asked for their membership, we don't receive it. I was told at a public meeting, that's none of my business, that underneath of, what was it called? Homeland Security, that I am not entitled to receive it. Yes, Mr. Jackson, you did state that.
I never said that.
But how can I make a decision when I'm not getting the stuff we've asked for? Because I'm told it's none of my business.
All I know is this committee, part of this committee has been trying to get their hands on the billing money for at least a year now. And again, I fail to...
You be more specific if you're talking about it, but I take a percentage of that comment.
I said part, I did not say the entire committee, part of the
Who are you
committee.
talking about?
Mr. Barton has asked numerous times that he believes, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that we should take over the billing.
Yes, I do.
Right, I'm not saying anything that you have not said publicly.
I would like to see the records of the revenue, what they do with the building, but it's not been forthcoming. I imagine it's substantial if they've been able to buy equipment and do the programs that they've done. And, yeah, it's no different than we dissolved the fire district. That money, that tax money came into the township, 100% of that money has not come back to the fire company every year. It's used to offset the budget, and I agree with the mayor. We should have a line item for every department in the township. The fund should come in, all 100% of that fire district money should go into that fund, pay for emergency services, fire, rescue, EMS, OEM, along with the building fund.
There is a difference, though.
I think we would be able to sit here later, at a later date, and be able to give a reduction to the taxpayers.
There's a difference in what you're saying. You're talking about the fire district tax. That is money that is paid by the residents. You're talking about billing, which is earned off of the volunteers going out and answering calls.
And that's money that legally belongs to the taxpayers.
It does not.
Yes, it does.
How does it?
Because we have a right to take the billing, and that
Well,
becomes taxpayers' money. It's terrible. It's terrible.
The billing income comes from insurance, correct?
Correct.
Who pays the insurance?
Taxpayers.
All right, so does that mean the insurance money that the hospitals collect
No,
should go to us too?
I just want to understand exactly what we were talking about. I think it's important, I think this is good dialogue. I think it's important to open this up to the public. There's a lot of folks that came out tonight to talk about this. I think we owe it to them to listen. That's what I'm kind of planning on doing before we have any kind of further discussion up here. We're going to open this up to the public. So this time we're going to open up for public comment on 2017-9. I'm going to be very clear about the rules. There are going to be rules. I'm going to call on you. We want to get to everybody. You're going to get 3 minutes. We do have a first and second from Mr. Barton, Mr. The approach that says we would any other ordinance, but I'm going to ask you to be respectful of each other. I'm going to ask you to be respectful of the person that's talking, be respectful of the committee. We got to remember something, folks. We're all one community. And it's really important for us to show respect for one another as we're giving comments. There's people in this room that have very different opinions about what we ought to do. You've elected us to make the decision, and it's going to be very important for us to listen to everyone, but I strongly urge you to respect each other and to respect us as we go through this process. So at this point, we'll open to this portion of the public. Mr. Callahan, come on.
Mike Callahan, 18 Moore Road West, Tabernacle. First of all, I'm against this, that's number one. You took away the fire district, and all of a sudden you got your problems. So I can see where this is going. First of all, township building, I can't see that. But just this, it's another bureaucracy, I call it. You're adding another thing to your township committee, which I think Doug could do, or one of these committeemen could do. All right, that's number one. All right? So, to me, that's absurd. Right? The next one is that when you think about this, the squad and the firehouse has done fine without anybody. All right? So, this, add to this is absurd. It's absolutely absurd. All right? You get a report from us, you get everything that you need to qualify it. So you're adding another person to the bureaucracy to make decisions that don't have to be made. Somebody up there can do it. Appoint somebody. That's my whole philosophy on this. You're making another bureaucracy that's ridiculous. We are Tabernacle. We are not Cherry Hill. We are not, well, I don't know if Pemberton has it, but this is absurd, okay? And I see that, because I'm speaking as a taxpayer too, all right, that this is all nothing to it but keep on growing. You add something to it, all of a sudden we'll have an assistant. And then we might have 2 people go out in the field. So you're going to be adding things to this public safety, and I'm very sorry, since you might be dead 20 years from now, all right? It's going to happen. I can see it happening. So at this point in time, I think it's absurd to add this to your town. You have a chief, and what's your title? I don't know. Chief, okay. All right, I actually talk to him now. But the idea is that those 2 people come to you, him, every day if they have a problem, or see you or somebody in this township committee. You don't need this ordinance. You have a lawyer up there that can tell you what to do. That's what you pay him for, to look up the safety issues. Oh, you need to implement that. You don't need a public safety director. This guy can here do his homework, and they look it up too. Don't put it on her, all right? But the idea is, you don't need it. I can't see you even doing this. All right? I've been here 40 years in this town. And we get along fine without it. That's my philosophy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan.
Okay.
Mr. Callahan, I just have one question for you.
Yes.
How did you feel when the Township Committee took over the fire district?
It was absurd. All right? Now you don't know how to find the money for this and find, I sit there every time when someone comes down and says, we don't have the money for this at this particular time. And I get angry when I hear that. All right? 20 years. Not a problem. You come to meetings, you bug the living hell out of me. Where is she? Back there. All right? But I took her. All right? And she found out, and she finally realized, hey, we can talk and sit down. That's what we did. But you lost everything. You took the fire district out. Not because of me. All right? We had a fine running fire company. Now we have to come and go, hey, Doug, the truck's down. Well, I don't know if we have to. That's ridiculous. Thank God, I'll get real. I'll see.
I'm going to just tell you, and you can, that's all I have for you. I wanted to tell you, I don't know that I disagree with that. I was the only person on this committee that did not vote in favor of taking over the fire district, which may surprise some, but I did. And the reason I didn't do it was because that we, in my opinion, we hadn't laid the groundwork that was firm enough to be able to handle the fire district. And the thing was, the most disenchanting was at the 11th hour, we had a whole section that was taken out of the ordinance. And then it was presented to the committee, and the committee voted on it. And the part that was taken out was a part that dealt with essentially the position we're creating now. This is a long-term, it's more of a structure change. Tomorrow morning, we're going to get up and the world's not going to implode tomorrow. The expectation is that we're going to continue to work with both of our volunteer organizations. This is more of a blueprint for moving forward in the future, long term. There's a lot of pieces of public safety. Public safety includes a lot of things, not just the rescue squad and the fire company. It includes the state police, it includes the forest fire service, it includes OEM. There's a lot of pieces that are part of public safety, which we don't address, frankly, in my opinion. We don't address as well as we should. But I want to go on record as saying, and I'll just clarify this, that at the time that we did the fire district, I wasn't in favor of it because we didn't have the structure in place. And unfortunately, we're doing this about 5 years later than we should have. It should have been done at the time that we took over the district. Anyone else for public comment? Kathy, come on up.
Kathy Berger, 18 Woodside Drive. If you don't have the financials for the squad, I'll gladly share them with you because they come from your township building. I have everything from 2008 through 2014. And 15, yes, and 15. 16 is not received yet. They have till December 9th to give it because that's how you wrote the contract. You should tighten that up. You just made a really good point. You didn't have a plan when you did the fire district, which we asked about, and we were told you could handle it. And we're finding out you can't. You don't have a plan tonight. I asked you to tell us the plan. You had the solicitor give me what's in the ordinance. I can read. I know exactly what the ordinance says. I want to know what your plan as the committee is. And as far as I can tell, you don't have one. You're not answering if you're taking the billing on, why you're taking it on. If you haven't looked at the financials, you don't know the expenses the squad has, which all comes to the township now. So you gotta take the billing revenue, you gotta take their expenses, and see what you're actually left with at the end of the day. You haven't done it. The plan doesn't exist. You cannot do this ordinance yet.
Clearly, you didn't do a good enough job in communicating what our intentions are, so I'll do that myself, but I'll wait till the 3 minutes.
Kathy, you're correct, we do receive that report.
You do. That's how we all found out about Shimon.
But
It's
we
right
do
in this
not-
document.
We do not receive how much money is brought in for billing.
You do. It's in the document. It is clear as day in the document. In 2013, $151,108. 2014, $225,269. 2015, $234,271. It is clear as day what is brought in for medical billing in this document. It's a separate line item. It says it right there in the revenues.
What Kathy's referred to comes from the audit that we do get.
It's our annual financial
But it's not, it's been completed, it hasn't been signed off yet on the squad.
for 16.
Right.
But you have a running total since billing started in 13 that you can look at. And then you have to look at their expenses. If the squad should turn around tomorrow and say they don't want to serve anymore, these volunteers, what is the plan? To do billing out of the township, you are going to need a full-time person to actually complete the billing, or you're going to have to hire a company. And they're going to charge you anywhere from 4.5% to 7% of the billing. Have you factored that in yet? These are the questions that I want answered before you do something like this. I don't think with what you guys are asking for New Jersey Fire Service, Police Service, first of all, you have nothing over them. They're their own entity, run separately. There's no difference than Doug calling them up right now and saying, hey, Commander at the State Police Barracks, this is what we've got going on, what can you do for us? I'm sure that Colonel Lowe does that all the time when he's got an event going on. Why do we need a guy to do that? If you want him to get more involved, you might as well plan on doing it full time. Because I think everything you're asking for is more than a part-time position. And I think a contract with the squad will solve all this, and then you don't have a problem. It'll be just like Doug running the trash and the snow removal contractors. They have a business. They are running a business right now, and they run it well. So I think that's what you should consider. I do not think you should vote on it tonight. I think it should be all 5 members. And I really don't think you should vote because I think you need to go back to the drawing board and see where you're really at with this. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Brooke?
Yes. I'm Brooks, Morris Meadow Road. I think I have to agree with at least 85 to 95% of what Mrs. Berger has just said. But there are a number of things that are just so bothersome about the process. First of all, you have a quorum. If you have a quorum, you can carry on a vote. To ask this to be tabled, first of all, you came up with this nutty idea, and I consider it nutty as a resident and someone who does open government work, that you have to have all 5 people here. That's why you have a committee of 5, and if you can make the quorum, you should vote. You should stand and take the positions that you believe are right, based on concrete information, and take the darn positions, instead of constantly passing off these decisions because you don't have 5 people. Someone were to die tomorrow, God forbid. Mr. Franzen was to have an accident and not be able to return, you'd still have 4 people. And so you have to make some decisions before anybody ever can.
I think we've established we're having the discussion in public hearing. If we were going to table this, we wouldn't be having a public hearing.
Okay.
So let's
that's
clarify
good,
that.
because you got a quorum here and you should take your position. The second thing is that to talk about volunteers, I mean, this really is a fish and cut bait. You can't say you're private and also say you're public, you're a non-profit when you are, when it's convenient. And I think those are some of this is an issue that bothers me, obviously, and I've expressed it in my posts, that you can't have it both ways, and I think the squad wants to have it both ways. Secondly, this is not an operational issue. It really isn't. Nobody disagrees, including the Brookses, to make that clear, that TRS isn't competent. They are highly trained, they're intelligent people, they do a good job at what they're trained to do. That doesn't mean there aren't squads out there, professional squads out there, who can't do what they're doing. It just means that for years they've been here. Chief Jackson, through his father and himself, they've built up the squad, they've created an empire, if you want to be truthful. And so nobody's talking operational. So when Mrs. Brown says, well, I have to have a comfort level, let's get off that. Let's just talk about the hub of the issue. The hub of the issue is the money. This is what's all being fought about, money and subsidies. And I agree with Kathy Berger on this. You need a contract. Let's start with a contract. Let's start with a properly drawn contract. And let's make that contract fair to everybody. Okay? They're not going to go out of business tomorrow. They could pick up and go somewhere else. And they could charge for all their services. And they can act as a private entity and get all the proper permits, certifications from the state, pay their employees, pay their members. They're not volunteers because they don't meet the definition of a volunteer. They are being compensated, and that's another deception that keeps being promoted. They are people who were volunteers, but they're not being volunteers. They're not volunteers. And I just want to end this thing because it's enough to blow your head off. Mr. Barton said at the 9/11 meeting, please give me, bear with me. The 9/11 meeting that he did some work, I think it was the 9/11 meeting. He did some work, and he saw that 75% of their calls were outside this township. Chief Jackson says, no, that's not true. This is exactly what's wrong with the way the committee and the TRA are operating as...
If I could correct you, what I said was 34% of the calls, not...
Okay, well, we heard 75% on this, so I stand corrected. But
I have the
regardless,
records from the county. It was based on an average of 6 years.
okay, well, I'm glad you have the records and you've looked at them. That's the average 34%. But the point here is that you claim you don't know how much money they have. They are vague as heck in a public meeting when you ask them how much money we're talking about. Mrs. Berger brings up their financial statements. You should have a monthly, there should be a database that you can look at. There should be a spreadsheet of all the monies that are taken in, and you should know, as I said in my post, and I know a lot of people are reading it, that these costs, these subsidies the subsidies that we provide should be spelled out and defined, and they can be calculated. To a large degree, they can be calculated, and they know what money they're taking in. Instead of going through the newspapers and doing all sorts of garbage, putting a lot of stuff in the record that really should be discussed properly in a public meeting. And in other meetings, you can have a subcommittee, that's perfectly fine. That's not happening. It's just simply not happening because this is the operational versus the money has gotten all mixed up. This could be solved. It could be solved easily. And we have never argued against the operational issues. They run a good ship. But what's so offensive is to have this kind of back and forth that goes on, the obfuscation of issues, the dishonesty that we see week in and week out. And I'll tell you, I almost jumped out of my skin. I'll be honest here. I have to let it out. When you say that you voted against the dissolution of the district, I watched you sit in front of the local finance board up in Trenton and say, yeah, we're going to take over this district. I want this district. So you can't sit there, Mayor. In all due respect, you can't sit there and say, well, I was against the dissolution of the district.
That's not what I said. And I'll clarify when you're finished.
Fine. I just, it's getting, at this point, it's just, this whole issue could be solved. If you would do a proper contract and make it fair to everybody, instead of these backroom deals about them never having to pay rent, that's just outrageous, outrageous. That's a $4 million building that we're paying $200 grand a year for. And on top of it, you want to go out and rebuild this building, renovate it, or build a new building. I mean, this is just out of control. This This is not a difficult problem. Truthfully, we see this as, when I say we, my husband and I see this as low-hanging fruit. You make the decision you want to work with TRS, that's step one. And then do a proper contract and make sure that contract is fair to everybody. This is just too much. Tabling ordinances. Nobody wants Fisher Cup bait. And that's what I said in my post.
Thank you for comments, Mrs. Brooks. I just want to clarify, I did an awful lot of work when we were discussing taking over the fire district. And I did go to the local finance board hearing up in Trent. But I didn't vote for it here at the table because we didn't have a structure in place. We had a partial structure in place. We didn't have a complete structure in place. There was a section that was pulled out of it at the last minute. And we had 3 committee members that voted on it that night. Any other comments from the public at this time, Mr. Brooks?
Thank you, Stuart Brooks, North Meadow Road. I too will join the other people who commented and said, you've got to know the data. And to hear after 5 or 6 years that you don't have the data, or you don't get the data, it's just awful to hear that. It's awful to believe that the squad's not giving it. It's awful to hear that it's actually downstairs at the clerk's office. It's awful to hear that you don't have it. Those 3 statements all can't be right. And you can't make a good decision if they're not right. So it's got to be right. And that's my message here. You've got to get right with the data. You've got to get right with the citizens. The TRS has to get right with you. Part of the problem, with all due respect to the committee, part of the problem is that the history of dealing with the squad has been an ugly and dirty one. And the post details these all the time. And it starts with the way that the billing program was approved after executive session, off agenda. I mean, it's so surreptitious. It's never above board. And there have been decision after decision after decision. It's just like that. And it, maybe that was then, and this is a different time. I like to think that. But when I heard the Brown say last week that there was last meeting that there was a deal that they couldn't charge rent because that's what you guys committed to at a meeting regarding the takeover of the property in Hawkins Road. I mean, times have changed. We now see that it's an extraordinarily successful billing program. Maybe it brings in more money than the squad believed it would or that you believed it would, but it's just untenable to give the amount of subsidies that you give them the franchise, and not to get anything back in return, be it information, like the roster, like the monthly billing statements, like all the information you need in order to make proper decisions. And it's also unacceptable to have all that money go out, and the right to make that money go out, and not have any money come back in, and then charge us an extra penny or two in taxes every year. It's just wrong. And it's wrong for the squad to expect that that's right. It's not right.
Stuart,
where's us? Well, that's my message. I wanted to make sure they hear it. Sometimes I'm too softly spoken. I could go on, but...
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Jennifer Houston, 23 Moose Pond Road. I was here last time and had heard about this for the first time, and so I wanted to make sure I came back tonight. I have a couple of comments. First of all, I think that you set a precedent if you table chickens. I don't understand how you can vote on something this important without a full committee. So that's just my opinion. I don't know legally if it's too late to go back, but I'm curious. I haven't heard anyone in the audience say yet that we are in favor of this, and so do our opinions matter? I know that we elected you all to make these decisions for us, but we're having this hearing, and I haven't heard anyone say that they're in favor of this. And so I hope that that means something to you, and that it's not too late to say, you know what, we need to get a plan in place. You said yourself, Mayor Lee, at the last meeting that you wanted a contract with the TRS before you went forward with this. And so there's no plan, it's vague. You know, you're going to need a staff to do that kind of billing. I work in the medical world. I work at Children's Hospital. You are going to need a staff to do that. I'm very concerned that there's no plan in place for all of that and how it's gonna get rolled out, and it's too much. I don't think in Tabernacle we need that level of administration, I really don't. I think that if you get a good contract, and, you know, we are all neighbors, I hate to see this happening in our town. You know, the squad is, you know, it wants to be emulated by other towns. And we provide mutual aid because God bless us, we have the ability to do that. And, you know, hope that they are there for us, you know, equally. But I just can't see how you can go forward, and I hope that you're listening to your public, because we're here because we care, and, you know, you're asking for an opinion and we're giving it to you, and I hope that that means something. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments from the public? Carla?
Yeah, William Lowe, the Emergency Management Coordinator and resident of Tabernacle, 24 Dickens Drive. And I guess maybe I gotta say something because I appear to be the only guy around here that thinks the public safety director is a good idea. I've sent written comments to you. One of the biggest changes that I would make in the ordinance is I would not even address the building. I don't think I don't think you've got a dog in that fight. I think you should leave it alone. There's all those other issues that are important. I think the ordinance should say that the first job of the public safety director is come up with a plan. And that plan should be reported to and carried to the Township Committee. In working with the two primary operators, but in this argument about the funding and the billing, and who's got the biggest whatever, we've lost the picture of what the public safety issue is all about. And we've gotten so wrapped up in the emotional issues of something that doesn't mean anything to the bigger part of public safety. The rescue squad bills, okay? They bill. They pay the bills, okay? They pay the bills. They should have a contract, absolutely. Put that dog on the back of the public safety director. But have a public safety director. Let's look at it. We're not talking about Philadelphia. We're talking about Tabernacle. And the reason why I'm in favor of this is all the things I do as the OEM that aren't part of what the job is at OEM, and nobody else is doing it. So charge that person with that responsibility. It can still be part-time. He doesn't need, or she doesn't need 50 people working for him. I tell you right now, I get paid $7,000 a year. Do I consider myself a volunteer? Absolutely. Because I work 3 to 4 days a week. Now I can do that because I'm retired, and I've retired a couple of times. I'm getting ready to retire again. But the fact is, I don't have the authority to do 3/4 of the things I do. The public safety director would be able to do those things, should be charged with the responsibility to come up with a plan of what the public safety is supposed to do, and then come up and work that plan with you. And then as those issues come up, work those with the chiefs and work those with the rest of the public. That's your public face on public safety. Get out of here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl. Any other comments?
Don Shearer, 218 Sewey Place Road. I did have one here 2 days ago, but I'm fuming over this. I am not a very good public speaker, everybody knows that. But I do have some points here, and following Colonel Lowe and Kathy Berger, they really hit it.
You're doing fine so far.
Well,
just relax. Be yourself.
As a matter of fact, my cardio meter just came up on my Fitbit because I'm fuming over this.
We got a very good company because the folks that are in here can take care of you.
I know that.
No mouth and out.
As Colonel Lowe said, unfortunately I was at a Boy Scout meeting on September 11th and did not know this was going down. But I did actually watch the YouTube video twice. And I just want to bring some points up that I totally agree with. Colonel Lowe being one of them. He said, couldn't we combine his position with another position? And you may not have to combine them, but like he said, bouncing the funds around is definitely not the way to do this. I think you're looking to do, this should be split into two separate things. You want to have a public safety director? Absolutely. I have no problems with that. The billing is absolutely a problem, and I think most of the people in here obviously agree with that. I was disturbed when Colonel Lowe said he was going to resign over this. He is an asset to Tabernacle. I heard that him say, and heard it again tonight, which hurts, that he's going to retire again. I don't want that to happen. He shouldn't have to resign.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Colonel, can you explain to Mr. Scheer why you are saying that?
Excuse me, and I got to stand back here because I can't look at that hair. Okay, what I said was, and what people misinterpret, is that I'm not intending to resign. I don't have to resign. I haven't been reappointed. I'm only doing this job now because I like doing it, and the committee had reappointed me. What I said was that if they combine the two jobs, or if they do the thing with public safety, that I would not be a factor in that, and they shouldn't be making that decision based on me. It should be based on the needs of the community. If I want to be public safety director and OEM and combine it separately, I'll apply for the job. If I don't, I won't apply for the job. But let somebody else apply for it. Don't make a decision based on an individual. And then last but not least, until you guys figure this out, I'm going to continue to play this role until whatever happens, because I can't get reappointed. I can't even quit being not appointed. Thank you.
I just want to reiterate on the September 11th meeting that I saw on YouTube, Mr. Lee, you did say that you want the contract finalized before any voting, or we would continue with this whole thing. I cannot believe that we're still messing around with this contract. That's the very first thing. I've been in Tabernacle for 9 years now. That's the very first thing that brought me into the town hall meeting, was finding out that we were messing with the squad. It's a fabulous organization, which I don't have to say. Mr. Barton said that the focus should be on the taxpayers. It absolutely should be on the taxpayers. We're all here for this. We're all here telling you that this is what we do not agree with, the billing, and let them do what they need to do. I was actually appalled when Mr. Barton said, we have every right to go in and take the money and take the billing. I don't agree with you. Maybe you do legally have the right, but I don't think, even as a taxpayer myself, that I do not want to see that happen. Our own solicitor, Mr. Lang, said that other towns are envious of us. We're lucky to have this squad that operates so efficiently. It's a model. People talk about us everywhere. Sir, our TRS. And you also said that you can get a billing number overnight. I can't, and I'm sorry if I go a couple minutes more, but we had a lot of laughter in here. I do not believe that you can do that overnight. We all know that there's red tape involved, paperwork, all that stuff. I think that was a very stupid thing to say. What kind of billing do the fire company get? Is there anything that they can bill for? I don't see them making any money except for maybe their fundraisers, comedy night, something like that. I don't know. I have no idea how that works. But again, leave TRS out of it. Let the fire company make their own money. I also saw Stephen Kramer say that he was part of another organization, and he saw no difference in operation with a public safety officer. Again, if you want to have a public safety officer, I kind of think that we should have it, but you know, maybe we need to have a public safety officer to get the public involved with the quads. All the quad accidents that we've had around here. You know, some of that, do some programs for us. TRS does programs for us. The fire company opens the door one day and we can go see their equipment. I mean, I was certified for the AED. I was certified for a couple things through the rescue squad for my Girl Scout troop. And I appreciate the fact that I didn't have to go to Cherry Hill. I didn't have to go to East Brunswick, which is what our council wanted us to do. And TRS was grateful enough and gracious to let us come in there and pay the squad a smaller fee than what we were contracted through the Girl Scouts to come in there, and they held a meeting and taught us how to do all this stuff. Okay, that's something that we're going to lose if you mess with the building. You don't let them replenish their supplies. You don't let them go on with all of their trainings. I see them out there training all the time. Just one more thing. I don't want to keep everybody all night because we all want to go home. Let me get this back. I don't believe that that's funded by taxpayer money anymore. Maybe it was taxpayer money at one point, okay? You all have kids, growing up, college, whatever. You put them through college. Are you going to tell them that you want 50% of their earnings for the rest of their life? I mean, that's what's going on here. You know, TRS was small at the time, and I wasn't here at the time. But I could see by the size of the building that it was small at the time, and something was done to enlarge it, move them into the new building. They've done it right. They do it right. They were a class act. We have no business taking any money from them. And I do know that they have offered to pay for the insurance. We had that discussion, I believe, today, that they've offered to pay you their portion of the insurance. At that point, it's not my tax money. Okay, so if they're paying for their gas, they're paying for their insurance, they're paying for everything, and we're not paying the maintenance on the vehicles out there, why are we even talking about taking their money?
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments? Mark?
Mark Lear, 32 Washington Way. I am in support of the ordinance, and for a lot of the reasons we're stating here so articulately by so many people. I've been coming to these meetings for an awful long time, and this is really getting tiresome. This discussion is on and on and on. So I would like to see you vote on it as written. And I'll tell you why. Like I said, the information, again, there's a lot of passion in the room. There's a lot of good information, but the one thing that comes to mind every time we have a discussion is that the information just seems to be not on firm footing. I mean, I've heard everything from Mrs. Brown being in the company of the squad with a whiteboard, which got erased. I've heard data that should be available, that isn't available. It's just everybody's looking every which way to Sunday to try to get enough information to make a firm decision on how safety should grow up in this township appropriately. So I do believe that having a safety director, a public safety director, I think is the correct move. Because again, I think all that data, it takes a lot of time to collect it, and analyze it, look at best practices around the state and some of our complementary towns. It takes time, it takes effort, it can't be done in your spare time. And even Doug, as a township administrator, has an awfully full plate to think that he's going to take that on, as he's been trying to do as effectively as he can with the fire company, and I think we've seen some shortfalls there. So again, I do believe that we should have a public safety director. Obviously, the billing is the big sticking point. I think that should be in the ordinance, because I think that should be an available tool. That doesn't mean you're going to take it over. I think as some people stated, maybe that doesn't make sense. Maybe the administrative cost outweighs the benefit. But I think it should be on the table. That's one of the tools that the public safety administrator should have. And finally, again, I said at the last meeting, I think we have to look at this much more holistically. I think we talk about the squad, we talk about fire, two fine organizations, and OEM, thank God for the colonel's efforts. But again, police doesn't come to this thing. We're just talking about squad safety, school safety, drugs. There's so many other elements of safety that I think that the township would benefit from if we had somebody who was focused on that and looking at a holistic solution. So I totally agree the ordinance is written. I hope you vote on it tonight, and I hope it approves. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Leslie Schmidt, 220 O'Shea Road. And I just want to say, I'm going to make it brief. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. TRS has gone above and beyond for this community. They are 24/7. Now let's take a moment and think about anyone in your family. Imagine you're at your family's house. You're taking care of them because they can't take care of their basic needs. They have a seizure. They've never had one. You call 911 and you wait 30 minutes. That would never happen here in Tabernacle. I don't want this to happen in Tabernacle. If you change something like that, it could possibly happen in Tabernacle. Give them the contract. Let them give back to the community and continue to do so. Use the public safety for the quads, the drugs, everything that's coming into this area and is blowing up these kids. Let them help us raise our children better. Let you help us raise our children better by providing the community through TRS with a contract to continue to give back to the contract and still be there 24/7 so you, me, our families, neighbors, and friends don't have to wait that 30 minutes in a medical crisis, which would never happen in Tabernacle. Thank you.
Any other comments? Oh, I'm sorry.
Chief Sailor, 2 South Park Road, Tabernacle, New York. I have a couple questions because I'm not clear on everything. The squad shows up as being a nonprofit with its own EIN number that does not look as if it falls under the township. It shows its own business, which makes them private, correct? I've been in nonprofits for 25 years. That was my understanding as a director of nonprofits. I'm checking what that means. Does anybody have an answer to that? Okay. Second, Mr. Martin, I would disagree with you on the township having the rights to the funding as an HR person. I, as the healthcare owner who pay for that services, am protected under HIPAA. So one, I don't want a spreadsheet with my name on it ever in the township's hands. That would be inappropriate. And two, that is my money as I have now paid for a service. If I went to the doctor's and had treatment at the doctor's office, that's me and him or her. That is not township or public entity information. And three, as an HR person, I will tell you this is going to require 2 to 3 staff. And if Corky says it's a good idea, I would side with Corky on that. But the billing alone is going to be at least a full-time staff, if not more, based on Medicaid and Medicare. Currently, I do ACA reporting, and it's about to be a nightmare for almost everybody who has a paycheck in their hands. So, thanks.
Thanks for your comment. George, you had your hand up and now you don't. Someone's next to you is.
Kingdom.
I'm sorry, Jim. I didn't see
Ladies first.
Jamie Wood, President of the Tabernacle Rescue Squad. First, I'd like to clarify, which Judy had already said, we are a private organization. You just can't come in and take the money for the township. There is a federal statute, the anti-kickback statute. We are a private organization, 501c3 nonprofit. You, no other way to put it, but just can't come in and take the money and do what you wish with it. Secondly, I'm a big enough girl to stand up here and admit when I'm wrong, and when the paper came around to sign for the dissolution of the fire district, I signed it. I was led astray, believing that the town should be able to handle this and would make it better. And then I found out at last month's meeting that you guys didn't have SCBAs because of whatever reason, I don't know, because I don't come to do these things anymore. So I'm going to stand here and apologize to everybody that I did not understand that and I didn't have the forethought to realize the impact that it would have. So I'm a big enough girl to admit when I was wrong, and I was wrong. Chief Smith approached me in May and asked me where I was, and he hadn't seen me in over a year. I haven't been here in over a year because I'm sick of the nonsense. We've asked for a contract for well over a year. We thought we were in agreement. I don't know what happened to it, why it wasn't signed. Finally, I and myself and the executive board decided to just take the matters into our own hands and pay for our own fuel and do the back and forth with the school district, take the middleman out because we are a private organization. The part we couldn't do is insurance. We're asking to pay for our own insurance. We are a private organization. We have a lawsuit all the way up to the appellate division dated July 1st, 2015. I'm horrible with dates, but I think that was the date. So it's July 1st, 2015, stating we're a private organization. So I'm not quite sure what you think you're going to do, but I don't really know that you have a legal leg to stand on. And the most important thing is, I am not going to stand up here and beg to volunteer. I'm just not going to do it.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments this time? We're about to close it. George? Can you introduce yourself, please?
George Jackson, Chief, Tabernacle Rescue Squad. Mayor Yates, you asked a question or made a statement about the personnel or the the membership list. It's in the agreement that we had negotiated. It was supposed to be passed in June of last year. That's when it was supposed to be, and it was tabled because we didn't have a full committee. It's written in there. I don't have an issue showing it to the committee. My concern
Can
is
you back up a second? Can you say that again?
it was postponed because we didn't have a full committee.
Beginning of that. You lost me for a second.
We had an agreement. We have an agreement that's negotiated. We negotiated an agreement, you and I.
A contract?
A contract, an agreement, whatever you want to call it. Okay? And it was supposed to go to the committee. And it was tabled. Because we didn't have a full...
That's not accurate, but that's okay.
Okay, well, that's the way I remember it, but okay.
Let me clarify this, okay? In about January of 2016, I went to the squad and asked for a contract, and the answer I got from the squad was, we have an ordinance, we don't need a contract. It wasn't, I didn't hear anything about any interest from the squad whatsoever about wanting to have a contract until maybe April, when we sat on the other side of the room and went through some pieces of the contract. And Pete was with us in this conversation, Doug was there, you were there, there were about 7 of us. And we went through some components of a contract. And we had a lot of dialogue about the contract.
And there's one that was drafted.
And we have one that was drafted. This committee hasn't voted on the formality of the contract at this point. They haven't, all 5 of us have not agreed on the contract at this point.
Right,
That's why it hasn't been signed, because the committee hasn't agreed to it. I'm just going to clarify that.
Okay. So
there was anything that happened back last July. I don't know what last July has to do with anything, but I just want to be very clear that the 5 committee members haven't voted on the contract. That's why we don't have the contract signed.
That's what I said. But anyway, so to your point of the list, there was a provision put in the agreement for the list to be available to the township committee. So if you as deputy mayor wanted to see the list, there was a way for you to see the list. My concern, or the Homeland Security concern, was that making that list public so that anybody could show up and get the list of all your volunteers in town. And I said this not just for my group, but for all the groups. I don't think that's pertinent knowledge, and that's, it's been shown in the past that the first responders are often the secondary target in an incident. So there is a way, there was a way to do it. As far as our financials, we give you the audit every year. We've given you an audit as long as I can remember. Before any of this billing started, we provided you with a written audit every year. It's a full audit of everything. Okay? The audit for 16 is not done yet. It's in the auditor's hands. We're working on it.
He's waiting to be signed on. It ought to be released by Wednesday.
You know more.
Oh, sorry.
That's
what happens when you have the same auditor.
He's waiting for Virginia to sign off on it, but it's been completed.
Okay.
I talked to him today.
Oh, well.
I didn't know
So
it
you'll
was
have it
the
in your
same
hands.
auditor.
You'll have it in your hands by about Wednesday. But we're not, based on our agreement, we can't get it until December the 9th.
Okay. So, but you do get an audit of our financials. So we don't hide our financials. There's been question about what does it cost the township for the squad. So I had asked, because I had been asked at one time to provide information to the administrator as far as some of the expenses the squad covers for, let's say, the building or stuff like that. And I found it interesting that that was said that it was never given, or it was never done. So I had asked, and there was actually a report done, this report here, which is the breakdown of the fire and EMS expense report in relationship to the township budget. So I reviewed this document. I requested it, got it. So I went over the numbers, and I kind of broke it down. So in 2015, if you count the building payment, which we can debate that's been debated enough. Per structure, which is approximately 3,200 homes and businesses.
George, can you back up a second? The document you said you have, not back up. Back up, yeah. You said you had taken and approved it. What do you mean you had taken and approved it?
No, I reviewed it. I took it and reviewed it. And looked at the numbers.
Where did you get the document?
I Oprah requested it.
I'm sorry?
I Oprah'd it.
Okay.
So, so 2015, which we all remember, is the last year of the $70,000 contribution when we took over the building, which was the agreement. It cost you, if you want to include the building, $64.57 per 3,200 structures. You want me to wait for him?
No.
Okay.
Unless you want to.
Per resident, it costs you $28.82. If you take the building out, that number per resident goes to $13. That was when you were providing us the $70,000 a year. In 2016, we backed down to the $35,000. You were still paying fuel and insurance. The per cost to a resident with the building was $23.76. If you take the building out, it goes down to $7.79. In 2017, now the numbers you have are a little different because I took out, because after the last meeting I did the math, I took out the $8,000 that's budgeted this year for fuel, and I took a quarter of the $14,000 that's budgeted for insurance. Your cost in 2017 drops to, if you include the building, $23.41 a resident, or $7.13 a resident if you don't include the building. In 2018, experiencing the full year of us reimbursing you for the insurance and us paying for the fuel, it goes to $22.12 if you include the cost of the building, and this is projected based on what the increment the building went up or cost every year. And if you do it without the building, it's $5.67. So the building was passed in a referendum in 2010. We all know that. It was never mentioned that the squad was going to pay rent. That was never part of the agreement. It was the town was building the building for emergency services, and that's what it's for. So to put the burden of the building on us, and even though, and the way Mr. Kramer did his report is that he halved the value of the building, or the payment of the building, so we're still, you know, contributing towards half of it, if you want to say. But you're talking about $22 a person, or $5.67 a person in 18, is what the cost to the taxpayer is for the service. All the other expenditures and expenses are covered by the squad now. Our fuel, our insurance, all our maintenance, all our equipment, everything is paid for by the squad. We have a plan to continue to purchase our own vehicles, to purchase our own equipment. We've done it. In 15, we purchased the new ambulance. We have a plan. We take the money that we get and we budget it very efficiently. Many years ago when I met with Mr. Barton when he was mayor, one of his things that he talked about was saving up for a vehicle. It was, he didn't like bonding or borrowing, and it was you save, and his example was he gets a new, you know, he drives his car and then he starts putting a little bit of money away, and then when it's time to buy a new car, he has all or most of it. That's what we're doing now. So when we pay for that next ambulance, we'll have enough money budgeted to pay for the ambulance. We don't have to go get a loan and pay interest on it. It runs very efficiently. And it's done with the volunteers. Jamie spends countless hours in the office doing the billing. You're going to have to pay somebody to do what she does before it gets to the bill. Okay? The hours that I spent managing, developing the budget, my members and officers that do the training or their other duties, it's all done on volunteer hours. The reimbursement that we get is for the physical hours that were on the truck, not for our meetings, not for our drills, not for, hey, I got to go down to the office and answer 20 emails about something or deal with stuff. I spent all day in my office today. I was on duty crew for 6 hours. I'm here tonight. I'm here as a volunteer. Okay, the squad has been here next year will be 65 years. 2018 is our 65th anniversary. We're not going anywhere. You know, to think that we're going to pack up and leave just because we can, we're not. We're all residents. We're all here to provide a service. We do it very efficiently, and we do it at a very minimum cost to the residents of this town.
and we don't want to interfere with it because it's working. It's the plan that we started with Mr. Franzen and Ms. Brown in 2004 when we met, and we met our goals and we've exceeded them. Why are we going to mess, as somebody said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's not broke, it's working very well. I'm not supportive of a public safety director. I think that as a public, as the people that sit up here, you guys are able to be a coordinator. Doug is, we've worked with Doug for as long as I've been involved in it. That's who our go-to has always been. When we were very reliant on the township, Doug was our go-to. I think Doug can do the job. I think empower Doug to do the job, or somebody on a committee be the coordinator. I think the point of having the contact with the state police is important. I think the OEM and the other entities, that's all great. A coordinator would probably be the more appropriate thing to do, to coordinate the efforts. But to run or direct or take over, it's not feasible in this town. We're not that big of a town that we need this. So, you know, you want to work on coordinating efforts. We have a contract or an agreement that's been drafted. You know, there's been several people that say we need to get to that first. Well, then maybe we need to get to that first. And let's table this and see where we're going and see what the direction is. Because really, what's the plan? If you create this department, how are you going to manage it, run it, operate it, pay for it, do anything? It's a lot of work to go from where we were to what we are. And I don't know that you understand all the pieces to it.
George, can you clarify the meeting you had in 2004 with Rick? Can you explain the meeting a little bit?
In 2004, we met with Rick, Kim, and Doug at the old station, and it was about one was the conditions of the squad building itself. It was the conditions of the rescue truck and the need for a replacement. And the third was how to better situate or secure the squad. At that point, we were getting, I believe it was $45,000 a year from the township, which was not filling our budget by any stretch of the imagination. We were out on the corner begging for money. The committee did not like that. They wanted us off the corner. The first thing they did was they raised, I believe it was $5,000 or $10,000 the first year, and over time we moved up from that to, I think we topped out at $70,000 or $72,000 roughly was our contribution. I don't think it was $7,000.
So it's a contribution that came from the township?
From the township.
From the taxpayers?
Yeah, from the township budget.
Okay.
So we then, the rescue truck was purchased, and then we began the building project, and the building obviously was passed in 10 and built in 12, or completed in 12. And at that point, they came back to us because we couldn't run a building operation in the existing place that we were. So we moved in the building, and then we had the space, and then the idea was for the...
Who's they?
The squad.
Okay.
We couldn't run it out of where we were. I mean, anybody that's been in that building, that closet was our office, our storage, everything. You walked around tables and racks and chairs to get to the computer. I mean, it just wasn't feasible. So we built the building was built, we moved in, we shared it with the Colonel and the OEM and the CERD and Public Works and, you know, the wash bays there, and we built that. It was originally going to be a squad project, and the town came to us and said, well, we need room for the Colonel, or, you know, for his operation, and we need room for this, and the DEP's telling Public Works that they need to wash their trucks inside, and we don't have a place, and the only place to go is the thoroughfare. We need to build, and so it went from the squad either renovating or doing something there to looking for property to the township getting involved, and it went from being a squad project to a township project because it benefited everybody. It benefited emergency services. The Colonel's office was in the corner. I don't remember what storm it was. We were up here, Colonel, but the windows were rattling and shaking, and I left because I wasn't staying in this building. No way.
And then I went to the building on Hawkins Road and waited for the roof to blow off, but, you know, slept in the ambulance, so if it fell in, we were kind of good. But we built that, and the goal was to get the squad to be able to fund themselves. And that's where the building came in. So once we had the place where we were able to do it, we took that on. We worked on it as we moved forward in getting our building license and making sure our rigs had all the necessary modifications and things that we had to do to meet the building requirement or the licensing requirement through the state. We had to improve our SOGs, our training, our members, our records. We had to do all that. It was a long process to just do that. And then once we moved into the ESB, then it was, let's take the next step and move and get our billing number and start the bill. And we started the bill. And the idea was that the township built this building and they're not going to continue to fund us at a high level. So we asked for 3 years to make sure it worked.
Who was in the decision-making process when it came to the bill?
The committee. Whoever was on committee that day, I think it was, when did we start billing? 12 or 13? Whoever was sitting on committee in January of 13 when we brought it in, and we presented it to the committee. This is what the billing is. This is how it is. Option A is you do it. Option B is we do it. The committee said, you do it. We don't want to do it. So we did it.
Do you remember a public vote to do that? Because I don't.
There was, I don't remember exactly how it was done, but it came out, as Ms. Brooks said, they came out of executive session. There was a decision made by the committee for us to do.
But I don't think there was ever a committee vote. Because I can remember Jamie coming in an executive session and talking about it, but I don't ever remember sitting here and having a vote because there wasn't a vote to be had.
I think you may have been told that because we were a private entity and if we were your service that you just told us to go ahead and do it.
But, okay.
We came to the town and gave the town half of it.
Well, I'm trying to remember this. But part of the deal was that we had to give you a certain amount of money to not balance bill the residents, is that right?
Which we still do, yes.
Okay.
And that's part of that $5.67.
Okay.
Ahead.
So let me ask you this.
Which that's your option.
Let me ask you, well, so we, in other words, the township had the option, when we first talked about billing, to essentially do the billing. Would that have been on our own, or would that have been in cooperation with you guys? If the night that Jamie was here,
well,
or the night that was presented,
the way it was explained was that you were going to have to do it.
If I can ask my question, my question is this: did the township have the ability at that point to do the billing in cooperation with the rescue squad?
No. No, that's exactly right. That when we asked about it, because I didn't know enough, can I talk or no?
Sure.
I didn't know enough about the billing and the Medicare because I hadn't gone to all the conferences to be updated on federal law and statute. Peter actually is the one that said they're a private organization, you can't bill for them. So we said, okay, we're in agreement to bill on our own. He's right, there was no vote because they could never bill because we were never a public entity. He's 100% right. And then we went into that's when I started becoming more versed in federal law.
So, but when we came out of that executive session, there was a discussion, and the discussion was, you didn't want to do the billing, go ahead and do it. And that's what we did. And it's successful. It's been very successful.
Yeah, at that
and
time,
every year...
At that time, we didn't have a fire district. We didn't
No,
have...
we did have a fire
Yes, you
district.
did.
We had a fire district.
Oh, yes, you did.
January 28th, 2013,
We
I'm
did
reading
not
the minutes.
have, we did not have the responsibility of the fire district to the extent we do today. It was done with a different board. It was a different board that made those decisions. That decision wasn't made by us.
So that was the decision, and it was successful. And we did it for the first 3 years. After the first 3 years, we came back and we offered to do the fuel. We offered at the beginning of 16 to take over the fuel. That was negotiated or written into that agreement that's never been signed.
Okay, let me ask you this. Considering the cooperation of the rescue squad, historically going back to 2004, and the support that the taxpayers have given the rescue squad, since since 2004, we'll just say, I mean, it's been long before that, but considering the amount of public support that the squad has received, and with the benefit that we receive from the service of the squad, how do we take the success of the billing program and have it benefit all of emergency services? Because I will be very clear about this. What I would like to see,
You can't.
excuse me, what I would like to see is a structure in place where the insurance billing continues. Now maybe we have to change who does the billing exactly, but what I would like to see is the success of the billing program, we'll just say, go directly into funding emergency services across the board.
Court, this is me. Court, this is
Number
me.
one. Number two,
No, this is her area. This is her area, not mine.
so are you done?
No, I'm not
No,
done.
you asked a
We might
question.
be. Are you relinquishing your time? I'm trying to.
Oh, no, I mean, you just said a statement that I wanted to clarify. You asked how, and I
I'm
can
trying
tell
to.
you.
I'm trying to get a point across, and the two of you are shuffling back and forth, and I'm not even sure you're paying attention to what I'm saying.
Stephen, to answer your question on how this can be done.
You know what? Never mind.
No, I
George.
have an answer. You want an
Okay.
answer?
I didn't really finish my thought, to be perfectly honest with you.
Let him finish.
I
Let him finish.
didn't finish my thought, but go ahead and finish, George. Go ahead.
He was asking how we could funnel or use the.
Use our money for everything
Right,
else in
well,
town.
you have to start a new
Well,
organization.
okay, so we
That's
can't. I say you can't. But what we did do is, we gave you, well, we took and went from $70,000 to the write-off amount. We took $8,000 of fuel and essentially put that back in your budget because we're not paying for that. Or we're paying for that, not you now. We're going to cover the cost of the insurance, $12,000 or $14,000.
Under our umbrella, because you're going to go through the JIF, right?
We're going to pay for what it costs to do it. So that's
what you're offering.
$20,000 back.
But that's what you're offering at this point.
That's what we did.
Which has, well, you haven't done it because we don't have, we haven't received a check for your insurance yet.
Well, because I haven't gotten the bill.
But my point is.
I said that at the last meeting.
Well, my point is that we received a fuel check last week or last meeting, whatever
Okay.
it was. We had talked about fuel in a contract a year and a half ago.
Right.
We were a little leery about doing that, and so we couldn't talk about insurance at all because you couldn't afford to do insurance.
And
So
we're able
now
to.
it's different.
And now we're able to.
Okay.
Because we said, as it goes, and as we can find ways to save you money, we will.
Okay, here's what I'm trying to accomplish, and maybe this is a Jamie question, and that's okay. I'll be happy to get the answer from anybody, frankly. But considering the strength of your organization and the fact that it's been built on a lot on the taxpayers' back, in addition to the hard work you've done, how do we take advantage as a community of your success and have it filter through all of emergency services? Because it's very clear emergency services to me is much more than just fire and rescue and medical. It's a lot of pieces. There's a lot of pieces of it. We have a fire district. We have a fire district we have a responsibility for. We have a responsibility for our residents. My question to you is this, and I don't know how to logistically do it, and I tried to have this conversation 3 weeks ago, but how do we take advantage of the success that we have built together as a community and how we built the Tabernacle Rescue Squad together as a community, as you just indicated? How do we take that success and have it benefit the entire community? In addition to the money we already allocate from the line item in the budget for the fire company. How do we take advantage of it to where we can consolidate the services for essentially less burden on the taxpayer? Where we're not buying additional equipment and we're not trying to outbuy each other. How do we take advantage of that? And the only thing I can understand is that in order for that to happen, that we would have to create our own billing number, and the township would do the billing, and then the income that would come from that billing would be earmarked specifically for emergency services. Now my question to you is this, how do we take that success of the rescue squad that we have built together as a community, how does it benefit everybody? And how do we do that?
It benefits everybody every time that truck turns a wheel.
I agree with that. But what I'm trying to ask you is, how do we, How do we benefit all of emergency services? Not just the rescue squad that goes on or the ambulance that goes on the street, but how do we benefit the fire company? How do we benefit OEM? How do we benefit the communication with the Forest Fire Service? We're leaving money on the table when it comes to Forest Fire Service and grant money. There's a lot of
the squad.
My point is that the squad has been collectively built together as a community, and it's very successful. And you've created a successful model. How do we work together to go to the next level? Is my question.
Do you want me to manage all your services at this point? I don't know how else to do it.
Okay.
What you're describing, as I said when we met Thursday 2-3 weeks ago, was you can't do that. That's illegal.
It's illegal let me understand this. It's illegal for what exactly?
For us to bill and give you the money to use elsewhere.
Can you answer that, please?
That would be illegal, but that's not what's proposed.
Right.
The money goes to the provider. The ordinance establishes a department that is, in fact, then the provider, and then they can bill. Right now, the squad is the provider, so that they bill, and they bill for the service that they provide. They can't kick back money to the township with the idea that the township's going to allow them to provide the service, to be the franchise in town. And so that's what the anti-kickback statute is all aimed at, preventing an entity from getting an inside line to be the provider by sharing the revenue and pushing back some of that revenue to the municipality or other entity. So when you say, they can't kick back money, that's true. But the billing revenue goes to the provider, whoever the structure may cause that to be, whoever the structure may be.
So all I'm asking is, and all this ordinance does, is create an opportunity for the township to do the billing part of it. Now, one of the things that the squad does, I'm going to be very clear about something. When I'm talking, I'd really appreciate respect, because as there's comments from the back of the room, it's very hard for me to concentrate and to come out with a thought. We can very easily close the public comment, have a vote, and everybody can go home. But I think this is good dialogue. I think it's important dialogue to have, and I just appreciate the respect. I think I've earned it. Very simply, my vision for this is to create the Department of Public Safety in cooperation with the fire company we already have, the rescue squad we already have, the OEM success we already have, and have one conduit between the township committee and between the service providers. I'm not looking to break the squad. I'm not looking, excuse me, I'm going to continue, okay? Don't interrupt me. I'm not looking to break up the squad. I'm not looking to take the squad apart. I'm not looking to do anything like that. We're not asking to do anything illegal. All we're trying to do is look at changing the structure in the future for how we provide emergency services in terms of the finance part of it, and also the overall responsibility for it.
Why would you want to take all that extra work on? You have a manager from another town that says you don't want it. It's a lot of work. We're doing it all now as volunteers and running our organization and running it very efficiently and doing as much as we can to return to the township.
Okay.
Okay? If you want to do what you want to do, the only way for you to do it is to form and start at the bottom and recreate everything from the top. So the Tabernacle Rescue Squad, don't wait a minute, don't put words in my mouth. The Tabernacle Rescue Squad can't do it for you. The Tabernacle Township would have to do it all for themselves.
So are you not willing to work with the township?
It's not what I said.
Well,
I
explain
said
again so I can understand.
that you would have to license your own rigs, equip your own rigs, get everything through the state done, develop your own plans, your own SOPs, your own operating, all that stuff to get your license. And then you have to apply for your Medicaid number and do all the paperwork and everything that you have to do to get to that point before you can bill $1.
Okay. All right.
And what I'm saying, and what people are telling you is that you already have that function in place. The only issue is that the money doesn't come to you and then go back out to the squad. The money stays at the squad. The squad's using the money to fund this operation. Wherever we go and receive a billable back, that money comes back to Tabernacle. To the service. To provide the equipment that we have. We pay for all the rescue equipment, all the maintenance on the rescue truck, all the maintenance on the EMS, on the ambulances, all that stuff.
I know.
Okay?
All right.
So, I don't know how else to do it.
Okay.
Other than you literally start from ground zero and
All right,
build it
let's
all.
forget the money part. Is the Tabernacle Rescue Squad willing to work with the structure of the public safety director, pending a contract?
What, as it's written?
Is the rescue squad willing to work with a public safety director as the contracted provider of medical services? That's the question I have.
Who's going to know?
I said, forget the billing for a second. I said, is the Tabernacle Rescue Squad willing to work under the structure that we're thinking about?
I can't answer an incomplete question.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your comments. Any comments from the public at this time? We're going to need someone who has not commented yet, to be fair. Yes, sir.
Bob Moore, 244 Ashley Way. Heard a lot of talk here. I don't belong to a volunteer organization in this town. I have belonged to volunteer organizations in other towns. I've been to a meeting similar to this, but the last time I was at a meeting similar to this, it was because they were trying to figure out how to keep Rescue Squad going and trying to create a tax district to fund it. They were paying more money. You guys are paying less. That's got to be in the thought process here. So the bigger question I have is, in all the discussion tonight, the only thing that I heard that's in this ordinance that's part of the plan is the billing. What is this public safety director supposed to do? What is his job? Where is that outlined? That's number one. Number two, you're sitting here saying you don't know what their revenue is, but how are you going to fund that position? Are you expecting that the revenue is going to make the money to fund that position? But you're telling me you don't know what the revenue is. So you're telling me you don't know that you're going to be able to fund that position once you create it.
Well, that's not accurate.
You haven't said how you're going to fund it.
Well, in terms of the position, we already have a budget.
Okay.
In our budget that was struck back in April, we already budgeted for this position.
Okay.
And in terms of the finance, we get the finance from the Rescue Squad. I want to be very clear on this because there seems to be a lot of back and forth about it. We get their audit on December the 9th.
Okay.
Every year.
All right. So why did we have a big half-hour-long conversation about we don't know what their monies are?
I'm not really sure.
Okay. I don't get that. Right? So getting to all that, getting through all that, what is the need for this position? What is its role? What is its job in this town? This is a town of 7,000 people. There are towns much larger than this that do not have this position. All right? I'm not against it. I work in the public safety area. I'm not against it if you have the need for it and you can accurately put out there what its role is in this town. But that's not in your ordinance. It really isn't. Okay? And on top of that, the main thing that's in the ordinance is the billing. We've got an awful lot of question here as to what you guys want to try and do is even legal. There are a lot of towns that have gone down in flames in volunteer organizations over handling money. And not just dissolve, but people go to jail. So you might want to think about what you're doing with monies, whether or not that's appropriate at this point in time. Maybe if you really have a role for this public safety director, maybe its primary job ought to be able to look at those things and decide what the plan is going forward. Because you will get in a lot of trouble if you handle the money wrong. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We're going to do a couple of seconds, but we're going to be here all night, I can assure you. Colonel Lowe, you're the first one up.
Yeah, I almost forgot what I'm talking about.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay. I think that y'all just spent 45 minutes talking about one little bitty piece of the public safety thing.
Yep.
I think that you need to amend your ordinance and take that whole discussion about that money out of it. Because then you're gonna have the public safety director and the chiefs and whoever else work it out. There's gotta be a way. There's gotta be a way that the fire company could do something. But even more important, there are grants and there are programs that you can go for to get additional funding. The other thing you might very well think about is some of the funds that go into this building that come from the squad now get dedicated back into public safety. So are you washing the money? You might be washing the money. But that's something to worry about after you got somebody that can do the job. Right now you don't have anybody to do the job. The second place I would amend the ordinance right now is to put on there, first thing the public safety director's got to do is define what the public safety director's got to do. You have an idea of what you want him to do, let him or her tell you what it is. She'll probably have a better idea of what's supposed to happen in public safety and how this whole holistic approach should be than anybody in this room right now does. Chief Jackson, will he work with a public safety director? Absolutely he will. If he can get beyond, what are we going to do about money? Chief Smith will work with the public safety director. If we can figure out how to fund the fire company. I think that you need to decide what you want to do and then change the ordinance to meet your needs. The first thing I would do is target it to what is important. And what's important is the life and the safety of the residents of Tabernacle. And how all these different pieces are going to do that. And get off this other stuff. I don't care what anybody said to anybody else 6 months ago. I could give a rat's ass. But I am worried about what we're going to do next. Thank you very much.
Thanks. I'm going to take about 5 more comments and we're going to wrap up. Huh? Yeah, excuse me. Come on, ladies. Come together. How you get
Jen, 23 East Pond Road. I have a question about how is the fire district funded right now? Because I don't really answer that question.
It's funded through, there's no fire district. The fire district's been eliminated. The fire district was eliminated. The money that was earmarked it's tax money, essentially. It was tax money. But what happened was there was a separate commission that oversaw the distribution of that money. The township committee voted to eliminate the fire district, and all that money came underneath the general fund.
So wait, it wasn't put aside for fire?
Not all of it, no.
Why?
Some of it went into taking care of the budget.
Okay.
The whys and wheres, we can have another
but I think
conversation
that's an
about.
important question. I'm curious why we don't have enough money to get the fire company what they need, and why you're looking to EMS, who's putting their money back into themselves and into the township. Why you're looking, it seems like you're looking for them to fund everyone else.
No, I wouldn't go
That's
that
how
far.
it seems.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far at all. What we're trying to do is trying to find a way to supplement the success of the billing program with emergency services across the board. That's just the billing piece of it. Colonel Lowe is right. There's a lot of pieces to this. The billing,
Yeah, I agree.
this is just all this does, to be honest with you, the wording in this, all it does is give the township an opportunity to bill through the billing. What could theoretically happen, which I kind of hope happens, here's what I kind of hope happens. I hope that we get this thing fixed. We have the office that's created. We have a contract that is signed with the Tabernacle Rescue Squad. The Tabernacle Rescue Squad decides to continue to provide the service for the town. I hope that happens. That's kind of what I wish happens. I don't want that to change, frankly.
Right.
We need to do the same thing with the fire company contract, because that's going to be modified some, because we did it when we first took over the district. Those are the two things I hope transpire. In that process, in that piece, we will then get the Tabernacle Fire Company and the Rescue Squad and the new Public Safety Coordinator person, which also would oversee OEM, as well as any other safety needs to sit down at a table and go through what their needs are. And my hope is at some point to be able to have one pile of money which is earmarked specifically for emergency services. Joe Barton has said more than once that he wants to have a specific line item for the fire company, which doesn't get touched.
Right.
And my hope is to somehow take the success of the billing revenue and be able to supplement what we already pay as taxpayers to the fire company. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, it still seems a little off to me.
Okay.
But
That's
I
fine.
have a quick legal question. So as the ordinance is written with the billing stuff in there, can you decide tonight to not vote on it as it is and take that piece out of it and vote on the public safety position, as Colonel Lowe said, and then let the public safety person develop the role and then work with TRS and the fire company? Can you do
Can
that?
they amend the ordinance on final passage?
I guess so.
That would be a substantial change, though, would not?
Yeah, it's a big part of what's in there, but I think it's a big important part from listening to everybody tonight. But you can do that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Do you just want to?
Answer my questions first. For me, it's page 26, it's probably page 2 of the ordinance for you. Paragraph 6 and 7 kind of contradict each other in terms of the supervisory capacity of this position that you're looking to create.
Can you show me on your agenda? I don't have it.
Talks about, okay? All right, thank you.
Any other comments from the public at this time? Mr. Callahan?
I just want to say one thing. Vote no. We don't need this. You just added to the bureaucracy of this township. Nothing we can do. Period.
Okay, at this time we're going to close to the public. All right, Cap, come on up. You're it.
I just want to clarify some things. You're saying that you want a dedicated line item for the fire. There is a dedicated line item for the fire in your budget. All departments have a dedicated line item. This is why I say this is so unprepared, and I'm so frustrated. That's why I can't be quiet back there, because I'm ready to explode. You have dedicated line items.
Let me be clear about what I mean by dedicated line item.
But Steve, that's not what you're saying.
Let me be, well, you know what, it's a matter of translation, frankly.
But the public who doesn't understand it
I'm
doesn't
not going to argue
get
with
it.
you. Why don't you let me give me a chance to explain
Go
what I'm
ahead,
trying
say
to talk about. We had a line item number in the budget, not in the budget, but the fire district had a number that was spent every year to provide emergency services to the fire company. I want that number back. Joe wants that number. Joe wants that number back. That's the number we're trying to achieve when I say line item in the budget. The line item that was essentially the income that we had earmarked for the fire district, a lot of that went into the general fund to be able to put us in a position not to raise taxes. That's why we did that.
We all know that.
Okay.
I think the public knows what happened.
But what my
All right?
point is...
You're never getting it back. The district is gone, Steve. You're never getting that money back. You can't increase taxes more than the 2% cap. It's not coming back. What you said at the last meeting, and I've heard tonight, which is why I asked, what is the plan? You want a dedicated line item that covers emergency services if you were to take the building. It's not allowed. That would be called a dedication by rider. I called the DCA. You can't do it. To put it in your regular budget, it never happens. Revenue comes into a general budget, and it is just general budget money. Even if you say it's EMS money, when it all comes down to it at the end of the year, it's one big pot. The only way to dedicate it is to have a dedication by rider. It's not allowed. It's not permissible under DCA guidelines. So we have to get off of that thought, because it can't happen. I talked to Robert Kennedy at DCA today. So just letting you know. I just want a plan.
Stephen?
Steve Kramer, 1000 Old New Knolls Road. I'm a social studies teacher by trade, so math's not my thing. But you just had it explained to you that it's going down every year. The cost of what it costs a household in Tabernacle to provide EMS and rescue services. It's gone from, if you count the building in the 20s or 30s, down to, if you not count the building, down to 5. Every year that's going down. You have a dedicated line in tax. You've taken over the fire district, you've taken over that tax and entity's money, and you have that in the budget. what I'm trying to understand is if you're using all of the squad's billing money to get to that $5 left of tax, 35,000 to make sure we don't send people to collections and bankrupt Tabernacle residents for things that are out of their control. Where is the extra money coming from to go to this big, in your description, pile of money that's in front of you to spread? Because you're increasing, you put $10,000 in your budget for a public safety director. You take money that doesn't exist, that's already going into the program, that's got you down to $5 a household, when that same report says it costs you about $69, I think is about the amount to run the fire department. Where is the extra money coming from?
Which report are you referring to?
The township's allocation of money for both, the one we opened. You have it.
Is that the one that I got tonight before the meeting?
So, I'm just trying to
Before the meeting, it came over to your office this afternoon.
You already over it a week ago, so it has to have existed before that. But
okay, now I know what report you're talking about.
July 21st.
I know.
Our committee hasn't.
Okay, I didn't.
I don't
physically see a copy
understand
until today.
from the committee's perspective where this extra money is sitting. If we've already eliminated all the cost of EMS and rescue down to that minimum number, where's the extra? How are we spending more tax dollars to spend less tax dollars? You're spending $10,000 for a public safety director to take over billing. You've had people in this room tell you it's going to take you more staff to do billing. And I understand we've taken billing out of it, even though that's the crux of it. And you asked that the squad would be willing to participate in the illegal activity with you if we didn't talk about the illegal activity.
Don't listen.
Regardless of that, how are we increasing taxes to decrease taxes? I don't see the math.
Okay. We're going to close the public at this time.
Can I
Thank you
just
very
make-
much for your comments.
Can I
I'm
just
sorry.
make a quick comment? I mean, you let other people go twice, so.
Okay. We're going to do
It would be
one more comment. We're
appreciated.
done.
There really is, Frambo's.
What?
There really are. There's so much information out here that's misinformation, insufficient information.
Mr. Brooks, you have a minute, by the way.
The fact of the matter is that you need a contract with these people, and you need to figure out how monies are supposed to be allocated. And this business about, giving free rent is just untenable. We pay the bond, $200,000 a year on that. They're bringing in the insurance money. They can keep the insurance money, but pay their fair share. And when I hear people talking about, well, your costs are going down, you've got your hand in our pocket. And it's so offensive because $1 here and $1 there, soon you got $1 million bucks. It's just not the right approach. Yeah, costs may be going down. I can't, and I don't know the empirical answer to the evidence for that. That's Chief Jackson's calculation. But the fact of the matter is, that's not the argument. They're providing services. You want those services, just do a contract. And if you were to have a public safety director, oversee the contract, fine. I would think that Doug Kramer, as long as he takes himself out of the whole picture a little bit, because he's got a son who's a captain, he could do it, Doug could do it.
I also run with the fire company,
another
so it
person-
evens itself out.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Especially when they don't let me run
That's
on the
fine.
Thank you for your
But the point
comments.
is that there is just too much bad information circulating, and we need to clear it up.
Thank you for your comments.
Mayor, I just want to give you the numbers, so you have it, that I presented.
Are they different than where I got?
Well, what it is I broke them down. What I read was not in your report.
Who are you again?
George Jackson.
That's great.
Okay.
supposed to do that.
You're supposed to do that.
And what is that report called?
That explains what I did in 2017, that's how I estimated 18, and there's the spreadsheet breaking it down. I did it for the rescue squad, and I did it just as a comparison for the month.
This document will be available to the public tomorrow morning.
That's the copy I have, so I'm sure somebody will make a copy. So I just wanted to provide those numbers.
At this point, we're going to close the public. I want to say I sincerely appreciate the passion and I appreciate the passion, and I also appreciate the honesty when it came to discussing this. At this point, I'm going to bring it back to the committee for any comments and any modifications we want to make to this. That's it.
Well, I know I'll be in the minority, but I'll make the motion to remove the paragraph for billing.
While we do this, can you retract that motion for a minute? We'll come back to it. I just What I'm looking for is just overall discussion.
Or a motion.
Well, I did.
I'll take my motion back.
Well,
Just doing what you asked for.
all right, well, tell you what, Joe Barton, what are your thoughts? We've had a lot of time to talk about this.
No, I have no further comments now. I appreciate the public feedback.
Okay. Kim, what do you got?
Well, I still stand where I stood at the beginning, and I'm not going to go through my big speeches I did before. I think the building should come out. I can support a public safety director. I cannot support going in there and messing everything up.
I'm not sure this does that, actually.
I'm sure when you put the billing piece in, it does, because in this it says that we will do the billing. Doesn't give you the...
I'm going to make it really clear. Either keep your mouth shut or go downstairs. I can't have a conversation with a committee woman when I got people talking in the back of the room. If you want to talk, go downstairs. Go ahead. I wasn't.
When you put it in the ordinance, it says that the township will bill. It doesn't say may bill, can bill, we will bill. So when you pass this the way it is, we are doing the billing.
What if we do this? What if we change some of the language in this to allow us the ability to be able to bill someday? That's all I'm kind of looking for. Because right now, for example, we don't have the ability to be able to do any balanced billing for the fire company. The fire company has the ability to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And
So why don't we
why
do this? Why don't we change the language in to where it's something simple to say that the township may bill.
But maybe tomorrow.
No, not maybe tomorrow.
Well, when you use the word may could be tomorrow, next month, it could be 6 years from now. But
Let's be
it's
honest.
vague.
Let's be honest. At this point, we'd have to hire somebody. Are we gonna do all that tomorrow, tonight? I don't think so.
No, but the point being, when you use the term may, it's very vague, and it could be as a matter of a few months, it could be years from now, like you say.
Or it could be never.
Or it could be never, absolutely, but it doesn't say that. Why can't the ordinance be amended if you ever want to bill? If you have no intention of billing, why can't you amend the ordinance in the future?
I'm trying to come to an agreement.
I hear you, but
I think May covers this.
No, I don't,
It gives us the ability. It gives us the ability to be able to do it, and it also gives us the ability to not do it.
And I understand that.
Okay.
However, I don't have a comfort level with the word may. I just don't.
So you don't have trust in the fact that do you think we have a plan to go
Well,
out? I have a plan tomorrow morning to go out and start billing.
Like I said, given the fact that I received this document in my packet, that I had no clue was being prepared, my confidence level isn't high.
Which document?
The document where our solicitor went out and found information about replacing the squad.
That's not what.
I'll read you exactly what it says.
What
Possible
that-
options in outsourcing of Tabernacle Rescue Services. That's exactly what it says. So don't tell me it doesn't say that. He wasn't looking for options to go outside and replace them.
Why don't you take that?
I don't know where it says that the committee requested it. I never saw it. I never knew it was being requested, but yet it appeared in my packet. So you can understand why I'd be a little bit upset to see something that, again, this is an organization we weren't looking to replace, but yet here it is.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm very passionate. Okay. Again, volunteerism, very big in this town, across the board. Who requested it?
What's that?
You said that you were requested for possible options in outsourcing of Tabernacle Rescue Services. Who requested you to do this? It was not the committee, because I've been here for the meetings and we didn't discuss it.
I think there was a general discussion on many occasions as to what the options are. We even had that tonight.
I don't believe this committee asked you to do it. I want to know who specifically asked you to do this.
I think that I would have to, I don't know, recall any specificity, any individual.
You
I think
wouldn't
it was
just
more
prepare-
than one. I think that Mr. Barton, Mr. Lee, Mr. Yates, even Mr. Franzen, I think, had raised on numerous occasions. It wasn't like.
But who
someone-
gave you direction to do it?
to do
Someone
what?
had to direct you to research something and give us a written opinion.
I was asked multiple times by multiple different peoples, what is our
So,
options?
but it wasn't done at the committee level, it wasn't done here.
So you're saying that it wasn't done in a meeting?
It wasn't done, there was no meeting where we discussed having the solicitor go out and find out what was the possible
how we can possibly outsource our services.
Well, I think
it came up a number of times. That maybe-
Really? Because I checked with the clerk and it has not in the minutes. So that's my question, I want to know why.
What came up tonight? I mean,
Well, it came up tonight from the public, yes. But my question is, you said at your request,
the request of the committee as a whole.
the committee didn't say, hey, Mr. Lang, can you please go out and find out how we can replace the squad? I don't remember that conversation.
So it would have been preferred to have this discussion and not know what the options are.
My question to you is, in order to prepare this, someone had to give direction to have this prepared.
I think it was brought up in all candidness many times by many members of the committee. I don't think there was anybody who individually told me that I can recall with any specificity anytime lately, go ahead and develop those options. But as we near towards this decision, and as collectively the committee and other people have mentioned that being an issue over time, it seemed that that issue should be treated in some particular area.
All right, so my question then, will we bill for this?
For the provision of that?
For the collection of the data from the different municipalities?
I think whatever time I spent doing that, I intend to bill it to the committee.
Right, so the committee should have agreed to do it.
So are you saying that I should be directed by the entire committee when I...
If you're doing research that we're spending money on something, on an issue like this, I think the whole committee should be on board that this is what we're going to do. It should have been discussed.
I'm happy to operate like that. I think that largely the committee, over a longer period of time, did reference what are the options, what can be done, this needs to be looked at. If the committee wants me to directly, not to undertake any research or any investigative work or any work without a clear direction from the entire committee, I'm happy to.
But usually we do have clear direction. That's why I was a little taken back.
What's your point?
Well, that's not true, though. I mean, over the years, the mayor has taken a larger role, whoever that may have been, in allowing my coordination with the committee. So, over the years, what's actually been the practice, I think, is a combination of both clear and direct direction from the committee on what in particular to do, and then interaction with the mayor from time to time does lead to activities by our office.
The whole point, and I'm sorry that you're the person that's getting the brunt of this, is the discussion has always been that we were not looking to replace the squad. However, a document comes out for replacing the squad.
I don't think it was replacing the squad. I think that
possible options in outsourcing of Tabernacle. It's no plainer than that.
Well, and I think it was only common sense that we had to look at that, and I was trying to collectively do that, because I think the squad, it was out there that the squad was going to quit, so we had to know what the option was. Many people told me that, Mr. Kramer, including yourself.
I had never said that I would quit this.
You absolutely told me that.
Yeah, everybody is kind of out of order. We're going to...
And that's not a problem. It's, people can make the decisions they want to make. But to be asked rhetorically, why did you look into the options when globally we're looking at that issue, it would seem only prudent to do that.
But you can't answer a question.
No.
Excuse me. I don't really have an issue with them putting it together. I think it's my opinion. Care for any part of the discussion.
Do you understand the direction by what I'm a little annoyed with? Because our conversation has always been that we were not looking to replace, but this clearly states that we are.
Well, we have to have a contract with them. But we want to, obviously, we want to...
We've been working on the contract with them.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Mrs. Brown's comment.
I said we've been working on a contract.
Okay. Thank you. Mrs. Brooks, with all due respect, if you can't hear in the back of the room, you ought to sit up front with Stuart. I mean that, with all due respect, there's a lot of
Actually, this is, in all due respect, this is a public meeting, and you need to be able to speak so everybody can hear.
Hey, public comment is over. If you can't hear, come up in the front row. There's plenty of seats. You can sit next to Ralph or Stuart. Sorry, but you've asked a lot whether or not you can't hear.
If I may. Several residents in the congregation here stated, before we do anything, we need a contract. Absorbing all of it, am I in favor of this contract or this document? Yes, I am. But at the present time, I would like to sit down with the squad. And let's get this contract finalized. Then, maybe we can make a concrete decision on this as to what direction we truly should have.
On which?
Resolution 27.
So you want to table it? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I'm just saying, there's an awful lot of public comment stating that we need this contract. I know we've been trying for well over a year, but I think it's time that we all sit down, roll our sleeves up. If it comes down to duking it out, let's dig it out. But we need to do it.
I think I would disagree with you from the standpoint of this ordinance creates the Department of Public Safety to give us the vehicle to be able to have someone that is a lot more qualified than we are to discuss emergency services, sit down and to put together a contract with a company, whoever it may be, whether it be Tabernacle Rescue, whether it be Tabernacle Fire. This document creates the environment to be able for someone else that's better versed in emergency services than we are to have the dialogue you're talking about. I think part of that process is probably to give us an idea of how lucky we are. It may be important to go out and get an RFP to be able to have something to compare to, so you're comparing apples to apples, frankly. And so we can really nail down what we need to do to come to some kind of an agreement about how we handle funding, how we handle billing, how we handle the funding of the emergency services across the board. But I think that
If you change it to may bill, then you'll enable that person to have that luxury in making that decision as they go through that contracting process.
yeah, I think, frankly, I agree with pretty much everything that Colonel Lowe has said. He spent an awful lot of time going through this, and we sat down and talked about it. And the only thing that I think I would do differently with this ordinance are a couple things. Public Safety Director is not responsible for any tactical control of any division of the Department of Public Safety. Tactical means on the job. The Public Safety Director has nothing to do with on the job stuff. Tactical is a piece that's in his. He very clearly wrote it. The only other thing I would do is I would to kind of put people at ease is put in here may bill, because the Township Committee we could put ourselves in a situation where we could create a billing number, perhaps, but based on the direction of the Public Safety Director or Public Safety Coordinator, I'll call them, to give them the ability to be able to make decisions. I don't want to have to go back and rewrite ordinances to make the Public Safety Coordinator's job easier. I just assume write the ordinance and then let the Public Safety Director work on it. And I would, to make things easy, I think, and it's probably pretty hard to really kind of comprehend, but the Public Safety Director, subject to approval of the Township Committee, shall, where am I? I'm putting the wrong
Section 5, Mayor.
Yeah, and may. I mean, are you okay with the word may?
I am, yes.
Are you okay with the word may, Ken?
Absolutely not. Just based on what you just said about sending out RFPs to do billing. I mean, you just said it.
You're not listening to me.
I was
What I'm
listening.
saying is getting an RFP to compare apples to apples to know exactly what our value is here. And having that information gives us what we need to work on in terms of the contract with the squad, because it's got to be fair to them. I would change, there's a couple things I would do.
I agree with Joe to hold it and get the contract under 10.
One of them is tactical. You got that one?
Where at now?
Tactical control of any division. Yep. Cross out the Public Safety Director. Cross out shall be a civilian position. The Public Safety Director is not responsible for any tactical control of any division of the Department of Public Safety. And on the last page, under General Provisions,
Yeah.
There isn't that already in there? I mean, the fourth paragraph.
I put in the word
Second
tactical.
page says, public safety director shall be a civilian position, is not responsible for any operation day-to-day control of any division of the Department of Public Safety. I put that to mean that he doesn't direct the fire company or the rescue squad or the OEM. Want to add the word tactical, that's fine.
Okay.
So I made that change. The public safety director is not responsible for any tactical day-to-day control of any division of the Department of Public Safety.
The Tabernacle Township Department of Public Safety, in order to support the provision of emergency service to volunteer companies serving the township, may bill, take out shall, may bill for ambulance, transportation, rescue response. And they may not. And my guess is that they may not. They probably won't. Because I kind of agree with the sentiment of it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, fire, it just said you were.
It says, and other services provided by the emergency service.
Mayor had mentioned fire, rescue.
Yeah, but he just said it. I just read it. Bill for ambulance, transportation, rescue, response, and other services. Other services, do you want to, I guess, Doug, you're asking to include fire in that?
You had mentioned that you wanted to include that.
Well, that's what other services means.
Yeah.
Thing. I mean, we can put fire there, it's not a problem. Because that was the kind of the thought process, is we're missing an opportunity with the fire company not being able to bill.
The point you had made.
They never bill for fighting fire, so that's why I didn't put firefighting services. I said they provide other services, including hazardous waste and different types of response services that you can bill for, but they don't bill for actual firefighting services. So that's why I put other services. However, fire services generically could be put in there.
Let's put it in there. I don't think that's
So then,
that's not major.
provision of emergency services and volunteer companies for ambulance, transportation, rescue, fire, response, and other services provided by emergency service entities operating within the township.
So that gives essentially the public safety coordinator the ability to be able to
Set all this up.
set it all. Okay. Those are the changes that I would make.
Does the maker of the motion adopt those changes? Who made the first?
Who was first?
Brown had made a motion to remove the building.
Kim made a motion to remove the building altogether.
Who moved the ordinance in the first place?
Gates.
Yates.
So does Mr. Yates want to make those changes as described?
That we just discussed, or just?
Correct, tactical, may, bill.
Yes. And Mr. Barton, you also agree to those changes?
Yeah, I am in support of this, and I'll tell you why. I think this answers all the concerns that I heard from everyone tonight. It gives us the opportunity to get a public safety director appointed. That public safety director can get the finances of all the organizations, and we can fully understand what the bigger picture is and what the true cost is. I've been asking for months for the true cost of these organizations. And then with that data, with that information, I think we can make an intelligent decision as a committee of how to direct the public safety director to move forward. And, you know, one of my priorities is to get a fire truck in this building over here. There's no fire truck in that building. It was supposed to be in there 6 years ago when we built the building. And it's not there yet. And hopefully that will be a priority of the public safety director also, with direction from this committee. So I look forward to a public safety director. This ordinance, getting all the information, the data, and the financials, and make an intelligent decision on the benefit of taxpayers from there.
We've had a lot of animosity in the time I've sat on this committee. I was looking through notes today, and I had a note I looked at from 2011. It was a copy of the memo I received from, I don't know where I got it from, but anyway, it talks about the issues between the fire company and the rescue squad going back to 2001. You know, I'm going through, I've got probably 2 boxes of stuff between the work that we've done on the subcommittee and everything else I've compiled. It's been a lot of time and energy thinking about this, and, you know, to be very frank with you, I've prayed on it too. Just really sit here and think about what we're doing here. And frankly, you know, we have 2 phenomenal organizations that we have built. This committee has made a commitment over a long period of time to support volunteers and to support the efforts of the folks that go into burning buildings and resuscitate people. And I think that we've got to put ourselves in a position where we've got to put ourselves in a position where we're not having big public discussions about what we're doing. I think it's got to be with the individuals that do this for a living, that know more about this than we do, and sit in a room and to work out issues like billing, like strategic planning for equipment and resources, and the public safety coordinator position that we're talking about. I'm not sure it needs to be there forever. We could very easily get to a point where we have strong chiefs that are working together. We may even have a police department someday. I don't know, but at least this gives us a structure to where we have the conversations that happen with folks that know more about this than we do. I think that the fire company could put themselves in a position to where they're doing billing. But Jamie knows more about that than anybody else does. And Jamie ought to be in a position and to sit down at a table with a public safety coordinator to make that stuff happen. In addition to that, the public safety coordinator can have discussion with the emergency service providers to talk about ETV safety, like Don said. You know, that kind of stuff we got to focus on. But tomorrow morning we're all going to get up and go to work, and nothing's going to really change. The only thing that we're going to have is a structure in place, and we'll begin the process of having somebody that can oversee the operations of emergency services. And it's not a big deal. We have 2 great organizations that do that already. And my hope is that they work together. Because I think that they know more about providing the service than we certainly do. The only thing that we can do is provide a structure for them to work in. So that's that's all I'm going to say. If you want to, Joe, if you want to table this, make a motion to table it, or I'll ask for a motion. I'll ask for a vote.
I'll make the motion to approve it as modified.
And Joe, you did that already? You'd already did that? Okay. Do you want to table this, or do you want to move forward with it?
Well, was Mr. Barton a second?
Mr. Barton seconded it, and Joe seconded the changes, the amendments that I made, which takes out the severity of the billing. It only has in there as may, and may means that the public safety coordinator, in conjunction with the Tabernacle Rescue Squad, if needed, I'm sure that they're going to be the contracted agency and/or the fire company can make decisions about billing. So it essentially takes the billing decision out of our hands and puts it in the place of the public safety coordinator, which Colonel Lower even talked about. We have a first and a second. Do we have any other comments or questions?
Just one little sidebar. Talk about no fire trucks in the building over here. It's an FYI, we own the building and the fire trucks. We can put one in any time.
Didn't you know one?
Yeah, I did. Didn't quite work out. Yeah, absolutely. That's why, and that's the thing. I think this kind of a structure gets me out of it. It gets the committee out of it. It puts it in the hands of somebody else. What? Roll call.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
No.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes. Colonel Lowe, you're up. Emergency Management Coordinator. Report.
The emergency management coordinator talked enough. The safety officer I talked to. We have a safety picnic to recognize the fact that we were safe in this township.
I wish people listened to it.
And just came up with a safety thing. An old lawyer gets elected. I would point out that this is not a pin, it is a flashlight. We don't give out pins, we give out flashlights. Even more important, this is a screwdriver. And it also says we have a safe 2017. Thank you very much. Thank you. Dan?
Just a reminder again, we're doing Grand Road on DOT Mission Lane Ave the next month.
Hang on 1 second. Folks, we have a tape recorder working in the back, in the front of the room here, so it'll be difficult for the one. Please hold your conversations down, or else go downstairs and out. Thank you. Good, Dan.
The Grand Road application is due next week, and we will need a resolution next month from the committee related to that. So I'll give that to Sean and then on the agenda.
I don't care what you do.
Anything else?
That's all.
Doug?
We will be conducting interviews for the fire marshal in the coming weeks, and we'll have a recommendation for you at the October meeting for a position that will start the first of the year. Also, last meeting I asked concerning the update of the road evaluation program. There was a discussion, but I did not get a motion to include that. Part of that program is also to review what we can do on the roads, as Mr. Barton asked. So I would like to have a motion to move forward with that. We have a cost estimate from Mr. Bezel of $10,000. About what we paid in 1999 for a previous engineer. So I'd like to do that so we can move forward on that and get evaluation of the roads so we know which ones that some of the surface treatment may be an alternative.
Can we do that tonight? I'll make that motion for that resolution.
Do we have a second? Second. All in favor? Roll call.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes.
Nothing else.
Next up, Pete.
I don't have anything else tonight, thank you.
Thanks. Township Committee. Mr. Bart.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Monday, a week ago, September 18th, I visited the Robert C. Shin Recycling Center. Doug is our recycling coordinator, and he was recognized at that meeting. And they gave us a tour of that facility. And what I learned is that we do a very good job of recycling, but one of the biggest obstacles is folks take the plastic bags that you get at Murphy's or other places, and they put their recyclables in them, and then they put them in their trash can. And when you look at that multi-million-dollar machine that separates all the recyclables, those bags get caught in that process, and it slows that process down. And they've got many, many workers that have to sort and pick the things that we put in our recycling that does not belong. So I would suggest, I believe we have information downstairs. We recycle, try to follow the rules and recycle properly. There seems to be a big issue with China takes most of the recyclables, and they're mandating that the recyclables be even more cleaner than they are now. So it means that they've got to do a better job of sifting through all the recyclables that go over to the recycle center in West Hampton. So this is a reference. Go on their website, get some information here, and continue to do a good job recycling. And don't put those little plastic bags in your recycle bin.
Anything else?
That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Kim?
Just to kind of piggyback on what Joe said, those plastic bags that you're not supposed to put in your recycle bin, send them to TES because they're doing a drive with, the little plastic airbags you get in your packages. They're collecting them and they're turning them over to a company that actually uses them to make furniture, like outdoor furniture. So they're competing to get a bench. So
the bags themselves?
The bag, they're taking the bags, the grocery bags, the little air packaging things that come in your Amazon packages and everything. Yeah, all that stuff they're
Egg
collecting.
cartons too is the same type of poly.
Yeah.
Ian Capelli's still collecting the soda tabs. Those are over at the stand. Speaking of recycling. Kim, anything else?
And I just asked when we do our second public comment, can we cut the time down a little due to the late hours?
Absolutely. I forgot we're gonna do it.
Yeah, we still have another public comment.
Yeah, I know. Joe? Another thing. I've got a couple things. Dan Guzzi and I and Doug and Anthony Ladacina and Vicki Shoemaker going over the Pylons Commission tomorrow to talk to the Pylons about what our options are in terms of building infrastructure within the Pylons Village specifically for a new town hall, whether we're better off to do the work here as we talked about, or else across the street. And I think it's important for the school board to hear that also, so we all are hearing the same message since they're major landowners here in town also. That is tomorrow at 2 o'clock at the Pylons Commission. Before I came to the meeting tonight, I was given this letter from Patrick Bosley. Many of you may remember Patrick had an Eagle Scout project up at Prickett's Mill, and I'm going to read this to you. I would like to take this time to thank you for your donation and support of my Eagle Scout service project. Without your donation, this project would not be possible. My project at Prickett's Mill Park went very well and is complete. I would like to say that my project would have been a lot harder or not possible at all to accomplish without your donation. Thank you again for your support of my Eagle Scout service project. Thank you, Patrick Bogley, Life Scout Troop 439. There's a photograph of the project. I have something written down here I can't even read, so I'm not going to even say it. I don't know what it says. I don't know what it says. Anyway, it doesn't matter. At this point, we're going to open up the meeting to the public. Comment on any items at all. We're going to limit your comments to a minute and a half. So we've had quite a bit of public comment this evening. So at this point, we'll open up the meeting to the public. Let's do it.
Stuart Brooks, Bozeman Road. First, I want to compliment whoever is responsible for the sidewalk and bench that curves around the memorial. I suspect that's your work.
That's an Eagle Scout.
Oh, was it? It's a good project. It gets us closer to the memorial. It's nice and done. Well done.
Figure out a way to keep the bird crap off of it.
Yeah.
I suggested cutting the tree down. I thought we ought to take out the sycamore, and that wasn't received very well.
Okay, second comment. I'd like to know why the regularly scheduled meeting on August 28th was canceled. There were a lot of people who showed up. Notice of its cancellation was limited or late, and I haven't heard why it was canceled.
We would not have had a quorum.
I always thought the normal course of action in that case was to show up, find you didn't have a quorum, and then...
Well, my parents' phone call, Stuart, I had a death in the family, so I contacted the mayor and informed him I was not making the meeting since I had to show there was going into...
I'm sorry to hear that, and there are always events that will take precedence over a meeting, but for the other side of the table, you know, the people who didn't get that call, who don't show up.
We did the best we could to communicate it out. We did the best we could. It was late notice, and this is the way it was.
Last comment, follow up on Mr. Barton's comment about the recycling. If that information is not already on the township website, or if there's not already a plan to get that into the next township mailer that has to do with recycling schedules or anything like that, my suggestion would be to include it so we can disseminate that.
Thanks.
Great.
Any other comments on the public? Mrs. Brooks.
I'm Brooks, Morris Meadow Road. First of all, I think the suggestion there about doing RFP is actually a really good suggestion. And I don't know why Mrs. Brown would be object to it, because the Tabernacle Rescue Squad already sent out an RFP back in 2013 to Southampton Township, responding to a proposal for ambulance service from that township. So I don't see what the problem is with doing an RFP. In fact, I think it really is a good idea, and I think it'll be a great equalizer, and it'll give you a lot of information. I'd also like to know if, I know October's coming out, you're going to be sending out the request for proposals for professionals. I would like to suggest to the township that you update your form because it's really old, and that you make sure that the requests show that people are complying with the comptroller's recommendation for legal services. I think that's really important that you do that. My third thing is, regarding this building, this new building discussion, I listened to that discussion, and in all due respect, I think the person who really focused it was Mr. Guston. He said, what are your needs? We haven't seen anything from the committee specifically about the infrastructure needs. It's all been this general conversation. It's been a general conversation about this report from the Space Committee. We really need to see specifics because usually it's like the tail is wagging the door. You can't even explain, or you haven't explained to anybody what you specifically need, how much land, how much you really need for township responsibilities, how much you need for public, how much public works really needs. I don't know how you can talk about properties or go out and do conceptual plans. It's just spending a lot of money without really doing the hard work. You need to have a needs assessment, and you should do it.
Thank you, Mrs. Brooks. I have, when I was looking through, when I was going through my banker's boxes today, I came up with actually it was a purpose of a subcommittee report from April 15th of 2015 that has a list of all of the stuff that Rick worked on, the whys, the wheres, and why we need what we need. I don't know if, I'm assuming the public got this, but this is a document for April 2015. I will want this back, but if you want this, I'll be happy to give it to you. But anyway, this is a subcommittee report that I received, and I'm sure you can probably figure out where it went. But Danny, I'm not even sure you weren't here then. I'll tell you what, I'll give you this. I want it back. But it outlines what the purpose of the subcommittee was for, what the needs are based on the feedback from the subcommittee. Any other comments of the public at this time? Seeing no eyes for motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Tom, how are you?
Fred, how are you?
Good.
It's all for the books.
What?
That was all for the books. Oh yeah. What's your name? Oh, Tom. How you doing? From the neighborhood or where? Oh, Lake? Okay. Like the drum circle in the car, you watch.
No, you didn't read